Hello, how is it going? Okay, it is a late start today, which is probably good because as much as it seems like this should have been a chatty week, I feel like not that much really happened. Thank you to Microsoft for kind of blowing any chance of like news. But let's see, let's double checking. Yep, good. Audio is coming through on all paths, I believe. But yes, it is May 24th. I'm Cody Toombs, and this is the RambleCast. So I just spent a good long while hacking around and making sure that all of my audio stuff is set up correctly. So other things may be broken. Other things may be broken, but actually some things are definitely broken, but we're not going to delve too deep into that. But audio, I think, is all working on all cylinders. I hope, maybe we'll find out. And not that it's super important, but I have even figured out a handy way that I can automate building the drivers so that I can do this. I mean, when I say automate, all it's really doing is writing a script that loads a couple of compiler variables. It's nothing special, but it saves me from having to go in and manually change code every single time I want to build this thing, which honestly happens almost never. So that's probably not an issue, but hey, at least when the next major OS release comes out, if it breaks something, it won't break something, or it'll be easier to unbreak, I guess. Really, this is such a we'll see thing. But anyway, the next thing I need to do, because moving things over to this computer has really revealed, oh my god, I've got a lot of files that are not where they should be anymore. So yeah, one of these days, and I hate saying those words, but one of these days I need to go through and do a major cleanup. I'm not too worried about that right now. Fortunately, the way that I kind of started moving things already, moving everything into Google Drive, in theory will actually make this easier in the future, should I move to another computer. Because I think all the file paths will stay the same. I hope. We'll see. Again, so much we'll see going on. But I feel like I'm still a little overexposed. Let's just so slightly adjust that. Yeah. Maybe bump that down. Yeah, that looks a little more natural. Almost like I fit with this background. Which is also one of the things that I will... I don't necessarily plan on changing the background. Kind of still like this one. But I may look for others depending on what's going on. I might... Well, one thing I definitely am going to do is delete a lot of the others that I just had lying around, because they don't need to be there anymore. Anyway, so what has happened this week? Let's see. Austin, you said you went looking for topics, came up empty-handed. Yeah, there really wasn't much. Microsoft, I think, by and large, kind of discouraged a lot of news from happening because people knew Microsoft would be having a keynote this week. I don't think that was a massive effect because, well, it was a developer conference, and unlike Google I/O, while yes, they're going to announce products, frankly, they didn't. It's not as much of a fan event as Google I/O is. It's not as much focused on appealing to investors as Google I/O is. Let's see. Trying to think what else to say about it, but honestly, like, It just wasn't, it wasn't that big of a thing. So one of the things that was the standout, though, I don't know how many people watched the Microsoft Build keynote from yesterday. I actually haven't seen today's, which I believe today's was supposed to be their product announcements. Movie talk it is then. Not yet, though you never know. We might end up there. But no, did they actually do hardware announcements today? I was gonna go looking for this, and I really didn't see any sign that they had, but I'm looking right now, and I don't think they did. Oh, I need to change the window I'm pointing at. Let's look for... Oh, should have known. It was the very bottom one. And resize that a little bit. Oh, how am I going to fix that? Huh. I wonder if there is a way to fix that. Well, for right now, I'm not going to worry too much about it, but... Okay, well, that'll work for the moment. Okay. Let's see. Did they... AI is headed to the Microsoft Store on Windows. That was from yesterday. I swear they were supposed to have some Surface announcements. Am I crazy? Did that not happen? Oh, I'm a genius. I actually picked the wrong window still. I mean, that's kind of the right window, but it's not the one where I dropped some topics that were actually prepared. Okay, yeah, I really thought there was going to be more stuff from today. Okay, well, so I guess there's even less happening this week than I thought there was. Woohoo! But as you can see from all of the articles that are here and coming up in the search for Microsoft news, it's all about Windows Copilot. Or really, Copilots. That was kind of the big talking point. Microsoft announced basically all of these Copilot things. It's basically, I guess you could call it a platform, or at least to some extent, it's their attempt at building the building block everyone would presumably use for building a ton of chatbots. That sounds so cheesy, but it's also painfully true. Basically, they are rolling out building blocks so that people can sort of piece together what they need and then hand a bunch of training data to a sort of pre-built system and create their own chatbots. Details were really, really thin. They did show, like on stage, they had, during the keynote, this was honestly a little weird, but maybe I'm just too used to developer keynotes that aren't really for developers. But yeah, they were actually doing code live on stage, building chatbots. And when I say building, it was really more configuring them, sort of detailing what they would do and the types of responses they could give, what you could do with their responses, adding plugins that could be called by the chatbot response, or rather act on the response. I didn't really fully get that. And truthfully, if you watched the main keynote, if you didn't fall asleep, I commend you. I had trouble not falling asleep, and I had just woken up from actually having a lot of sleep that previous night. It didn't matter. It got boring. Thus the reason I'm also not going to pull up the actual keynote, because what for? It was a whole lot of people standing on stage, and occasionally they would switch to showing slides of code. Or well, I guess it was live screens, but you get the point. Anyway, so the big thing in terms of actual user experience, they announced Windows Copilot. So basically, you're going to be able to hit, I don't think it was a start menu, but you'll be able to hit something, and it's going to just be basically a chatbot that lives on your screen all the time. Obviously, you won't have a chat interface there, but you're going to always be able to see and interact with this chatbot. You just click one thing, start typing, and in theory, you can start telling it to do stuff. Now, what you can tell it to do can vary in many, many ways. And I think what this is ultimately headed towards is, well, simply put, I think they're going to hook Cortana to it. So in theory, you will end up with basically a very, very high-powered version of Siri on your computer. And I say high power somewhat skeptically, but the way it looks is that you would be able to probably, at least at some point, give your computer some sort of a command, like, trying to think of an easy example, but let's say along the lines of, you know, I want to have, or I'm throwing a party tonight. Come up with a menu that I can cook quickly. Send a list of things I'm going to make to this group of people. Tell or advertise this on Twitter or whatever service. Actually, Twitter wouldn't work for this because they close their APIs. Basically just a long list of instructions, and supposedly their chatbot and co-pilots will be able to do this kind of thing. Okay. Oh, Austin, of course that's what you would pick. Oh man, I really gotta fix the Windows situation here. But yeah, we'll come back to that momentarily. Anyway, I'll give them this. It looks cool. It really actually did look cool. So much so that I can genuinely see there being a lot of attention and fanfare on trying to build popular co-pilots. And I think that this is going to inspire at least some people to come back to Windows who may have previously left it or were on the fence about leaving. Like, this might actually make people interested in the OS again, because there's actually going to be OS level integration for this, which is something that at the moment can't be said for Linux or Mac OS. We shall see. There's a big fat we'll see what happens here, but that is an incentive, which is an interesting thing, because all of a sudden, like, let's be honest, the thing that has kept most people on Windows for the last good long couple of years is games. To some extent, universality, so to speak. Like, it's the one platform that everyone still agrees is in the largest use. And beyond that, it might just be what came on the computer you got. I feel like so many more people have been giving Linux a try. Obviously, a lot of people are moving to Mac OS. If you don't want to spend the money on a Mac and don't feel like taking a risk with a Hackintosh, then, you know, that was a reason to stay on Windows or switch to Linux. But here's an actual reason people might want to be on Windows, like specifically want to be on Windows. That's honestly a first in quite a while. Every person I know, they might say that they like Windows. They might say they use it, but I haven't heard anyone actually say that they want to be on Windows. And I think that is a huge difference from what I hear when people talk about Mac OS or Linux or even Chrome OS. Look, I don't have the highest interest in Chrome OS, obviously. I think people know this. But I at least know people who say they want to use it. They like it using it. I don't know a lot of people who really come away from Windows saying that, like, given a choice between all the others, if they've used them, that they want to be on Windows. Most people just kind of give the shrug and say, it's what I use, or something to that effect. So, yeah, I think Microsoft may have actually found a legitimate reason to bring people back to being interested in the platform. So, good for them, I think. But, yeah, there's so much of a we'll see. It's still a big, fat, honkin' we'll see. And there's also going to be a cost factor, I think, with a lot of the Copilot stuff. Writing plugins for Copilots, probably not going to be that big of a deal. It seems like that doesn't even necessarily rely on much. It seems like that's actually just a regular plugin interface of some sort, and you can just sort of respond to intents, almost like in Android. But I didn't really look closely at that yet. One thing that was impressive, and this is, where was it? This is actually one of the great things about the way, or the fact that I'm moving all this stuff over here. I can now, is that the right one? No, not that page. All these tabs that I generally have open and I forget to throw into my folder are all actually readily available here. I just have to actually find the one I'm looking for. Here it is. I mean, they were sharing, for example, this is the source code for a Python script that one of the guys there, I think that's Scott Guthrie's thing, but it could have been the other guy who spent a lot of time talking about AI. It's what they were doing for, okay, I'll just explain what this does. Every time they recorded a podcast, this guy, I'm sure it was Scott Guthrie, he basically said he hated making channel or individual artwork for each episode. He hated trying to write a promotional copy, didn't really want to post it to LinkedIn, but these were all the steps he had to do. This is a Copilot script that apparently does this. Not only does it do that, it starts by taking the audio from this podcast. It hands it to some sort of service that basically creates a transcript of it. It figures out who the guest is. From figuring out who the guest is, it then I guess starts building up the promotional script, and it also hands off certain keywords to Dolly so that it can auto-generate the art for the episode. And somewhere in here it also auto-posts to LinkedIn, I believe. Though that may have been a different... Yep, okay, it also happens, and it also posts to LinkedIn. So, yeah. I mean, none of this stuff is a chatbot. It's just a bunch of AI functionality, which is kind of clever. Like, this is a lot of code to do something like this. It's probably not worth it for the average person, but, you know, any particular one piece of this is pretty clever and could be very, very useful for a lot of people. So, how this will play out, I don't know, but it is interesting. And all things being equal, the amount of code that goes into doing this, it looks like a lot, but if you actually stop and look closely at this, a huge chunk of this file is comments. And I'll paste this into chat now. A huge chunk of this file is comments, and what isn't comments is a whole lot of like boilerplate, or just sort of like copy and paste this block of code and just change the specific, like change whatever it is for the API call, or like the set, it's setting up an object to be passed into whatever service. That's all pretty basic stuff. So there's not a whole lot of like high level programming going on here. This is relative tedium, which is excellent. Look, I'm far from an AI convert, but if you can use it for things like this, that's awesome. Also, not that it's super important, but I saw a thing in here that I really want to use, because it might be super useful for turning the RambleCast into a podcast the way I would want to have a podcast posted. In that it would automate some stuff. Not that it's going to make it perfect, but hey, basic automation would help it in a lot of ways. But we shall see. Which, speaking of, that is one of the changes I would like to make. Or not changes, but one of the things that I'm thinking about doing. A live recording, as I've been doing this whole time. But then I'm going to set up my this thing to record just my microphone audio and guest audio, and leave the music out, not that I'm doing any sound effects, but leave those out, etc., etc. Like I want to do that. And then if I can automate enough things so that I don't have to put too much time into this, then it would be really convenient to just turn that into a podcast and then post it to the YouTube channel, where it could be easily subscribed to and listened to as a podcast. And I think that would be pretty neat. But I didn't have time to properly set that up for today, so it will not be happening with this episode, and for that matter, I probably won't get to it for at least a few. Anyway, so yay. Things are happening, and they might actually be worth paying attention to Microsoft for once again. But on totally flipping this around to things that no one should pay attention to. Thank you for that, Austin. Okay, I had not actually read this. So, The Verge headline, Elon Musk fails to launch Ron DeSantis in disastrous Twitter space. Oh, dear Lord, what in the world? Okay, so Elon's account experienced what you might call rapid unscheduled disassembly. For anyone who somehow would miss this, that's what SpaceX referred to, or that's what SpaceX called it when the rocket exploded last month. Let's see. DeSantis was announcing his 2024 presidential campaign to screeching audio feedback and technical difficulties in a Twitter space with Elon Musk on Wednesday. Oh God, I did not hear about this, but I'm loving it so much already. DeSantis eventually did launch his campaign, but the event was mired with problems from the very beginning, and DeSantis didn't manage to use the initial space hosted by Musk. Oh jeez. When moderator David Sachs, a venture capitalist and former PayPal product lead, first unmuted himself to start to talk, the space was filled with loud, echoing feedback sounds before quickly going silent. The accounts of DeSantis and Sachs popped in and out of the initial room, muting and unmuting themselves before leaving entirely. As of publication, it's not entirely clear what went wrong, but Musk, one of the only people to actually speak in the first space, chalked the problems up to overloaded servers. Okay. More than 600,000 users were tuned in a few minutes before the Musk-hosted room ended. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yes, it was really 600,000. We believe you, Mr. Musk. We believe that those aren't bots at all. Quote, "Man, I think we melted the internet there," Sachs said in a separate space he created with his account after the first one shuttered. "I think it crashed because when you multiply 500,000 people in a room by an account with over 100 million followers, which is Elon's account, I think that creates just a scalability level that was unprecedented." Unprecedented for Twitter, maybe? I don't know. YouTube seems to handle this very well. In fact, Apple now handles this very well. There's a lot of companies that handle this pretty freaking well. I don't think it's unprecedented, guys. But okay. Let's see. Anyway. So, DeSantis read a speech launching his campaign in the Sachs-hosted room about 25 minutes after the event was originally scheduled to begin. The largest Twitter space was 2.5 million. Oh, geez. So, yeah, it's definitely not unprecedented. Oh, that's wonderful. And it obviously had nothing to do with being overloaded. If it's screeching audio, chances are somebody had their settings wrong. Or the app glitched on somebody's phone. This isn't a case of overloaded servers. What idiocy. But hey, what do you expect for 3 people with absolutely zero technical skill? And yes, I'm including Elon Musk in my list of people who have no technical skill. At me. At me, baby man. At me. Anyway. Let's see. So... let's see. The DeSantis campaign did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Yeah, because they're going to comment on his stunt announcement failing. Yeah, that totally sounds like something that they would do. Since taking over Twitter last year, Musk has amassed tremendous support and admiration from Republicans who have long accused social media platforms of unjustly censoring conservative speech. Musk has repeatedly played into this grief by rallying behind various right-wing talking points and offering up troves of internal Twitter documents as evidence that the company's previous leaders were biased against conservatives. Former Fox News host Tucker Carlson and the Daily Wire have chosen to move their shows over to Twitter in recent weeks after Carlson was fired from Fox News. You know, because they're trying to find a place where the lawyers won't tell them not to lie and cause trouble. Shocking. Asked about censorship Wednesday. I don't know why, but I just read that. Asked about censorship Wednesday, and my immediate thought is Wednesday Addams would have loved a form of censorship. Mostly cutting out someone's tongue, but hey, you know, whatever works. DeSantis said he would soon be signing a digital bill of rights. Oh God, why? That would ban state and government officials from colluding with social media companies. Okay. You know what? You know what? Ronald. That would be hilarious. Yes. You know what? Do that. I want to see how the FBI, CIA, DHS, FDA, well, okay, maybe not the FDA. It's certainly the ATF. Oh, I'm sure there's more. Oh, there's definitely got to be more. List all of them. They all work with social media companies. They all do. It's part of their investigations. They collude with them all the time. Moron. Anyway, so, and by the way, pretty much all of them send takedown requests. That's censorship. But okay. God, how do these people function? Anyway, Musk's popularity with the GOP could serve as a boon to DeSantis, whose poll numbers amongst Republican primary voters have fallen over the last few weeks. A recent Morning Consult survey showed Trump overtaking DeSantis amongst GOP primary voters by 38%. Yeah. See, you can't really say that Trump is overtaking DeSantis. He's dunking on DeSantis. DeSantis's numbers keep falling. I don't know what they are today, but I have a funny feeling they're still not great. He's failing. He's failing on every front. Every Republican is turning against him because he's a bad low-level goon. If, like, this is in a video game, DeSantis would be one of those, like, stage 3 mini bosses. He's the guy that you get to before you get to the real boss on the level. He's just a guy who, and he's an annoying one for sure. Like, he's the boss that is like bullet hell, or mini boss who does the bullet hell thing. Like, he throws a bunch of stuff at you, but really all you have to do is find out where to stand, and for the most part you just avoid everything he throws at you. You know, like Disney does. Anyway, both DeSantis and Musk have painted people with progressive positions on issues like LGBTQ+ rights as members of an existential, quote, woke mob intent on corrupting conservative tradition. Oh, that's actually funny for so many reasons. Despite suggesting that he would back DeSantis if he were to run for president late last year, Musk said that he was not, quote, at this time planning to endorse any particular candidate, end quote, during an interview with the Wall Street Journal conference on Tuesday. It's great. He wants to specifically host DeSantis on a Twitter space, but he's like, yeah, no, I'm not voting for anyone. I haven't decided. He is, what was the name of that? The creepy dude from, like a few elections ago, the one who wore the sweater. He was the supposed quintessential undecided voter, who, when people dug into him, like, he was very obviously going to vote Republican anyway. He was just pretending to be a middle ground guy. He had a real weird name too. Anyway, I think it's quite groundbreaking that there be a major announcement of this type on social media, Musk said Tuesday. How is it groundbreaking? Trump basically did that years earlier. I mean, was it officially an announcement on Twitter? No, but he kind of did. The DeSantis campaign formally filed for the 2024 presidential race. No one cares. Elon Musk has already turned Twitter into a hellscape. Who said this? Quoting somebody. Elon Musk already turned Twitter into a hellscape of hate and conspiracy, but his full-throttled embrace of Ron DeSantis only weeks after Tucker Carlson announced he would revive his Fox News show on Twitter is a new low for what was once one of the world's most important communications platforms, said Nicole Gill, co-founder and executive director for Accountable Tech, in a statement Wednesday. I don't know who Nicole Gill is or what Accountable Tech is, but good for her, I guess. She managed to get her quote in here. Congrats. Oh, okay, so the Twitter space was today. Oh yeah, I guess it was. Let's see. So anyway, Hoopy said banned from colluding with social media, or from social media, said in a Twitter space with the owner of Twitter. Yeah, well, that one is what it is. let's see, undecided centrists are just Republicans and knowing they're in the wrong. A lot of them are, yeah. We know a perfect example who used to hang out around the Discord. Not naming names, we know. But yeah, claiming to be a centrist was pretty much the biggest load of garbage I think I've heard. And if he's listening, you know what? I'm not even going to pretend to say no disrespect, because you disrespected all of us frequently. So I'm not going to pretend you didn't. But hey, it is what it is. Yeah, that was quite a sly reference. Yeah. The live chat window froze again. Oh my God, really? I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with it. There's unfortunately not really anything I can do to fix it that I know of. I suppose maybe I could remove it and re-add it or something. Maybe it'll fix it temporarily, but I have a feeling it'll just crash again. Maybe what I'll do is, I might just kill it. Where's it at? Find that. Yeah, okay. So that is toast, and actually do it in that screen too. Yeah, I wish there was a way to actually fix that, but I don't know what I would do. So yeah, this is a colossal screw up on a presidential announcement, which doesn't really speak well to Twitter, supposedly becoming more efficient and strengthening its base and, improving the technology. Elon has had, it's a little over 6 months and has not been able to get things in order, which, hey, 6 months really is not that long of a time when you're considering how big Twitter technically was. That said, the guy's been working everyone to the bone. You'd think maybe, just maybe, he would have gotten this stuff sorted by now. If anything, Elon taught politicians a lesson. Using Twitter as a live platform is no longer worth considering. I wouldn't bank on that, because right now the talking point is every politician, with one notable exception I will come back to. Every politician, for the most part, seems to still be like they're still trying to get his approval. They're still trying to make him want to be on their side. So I do think that there's probably something to that. People still like him, and as long as he is going to cater to them, and in turn they will cater to him, I think that is a symbiosis that those two are very keen to have going for them. That doesn't mean anyone's going to announce their presidential runs on there. That doesn't mean anyone's going to treat this as their first line thing. But I do think that we're about to see a lot of people still pandering to Musk, and likewise Musk is going to pander to them, because just like so many other people who've gone into the conservative talking head space, if you pander to the party, the party will pander back to you. Like, this is what made half of those people famous. So yeah, I don't think that this is going to go away for Elon Musk or any of the other Republicans who want to use Twitter or any social network. The exception, of course, being there is one perfect exception. Let me pull that up. Um, let's see. Really? I couldn't just pull it up. I really thought that I'd be able to get it off the first search term. Not sure how many people saw this, but... Oh, come on, really? Ah, okay, here we go. Not sure anyone saw this one, but... Marjorie Taylor Greene basically dumped on DeSantis, insisting that Twitter is not a real place, or it's not the real world, therefore it is... he can't be taken seriously because he decided to announce on Twitter. Which I think we can collectively agree. No one cares what she has to say, but I think it is funny that this weird little fight going on between various members of the Republican Party, many of which are now just firmly against DeSantis. Basically, like, they've either picked Trump's side or they picked the, you know, like, let's not put a crazy hateful person in the first place. Like, there's a beautiful split where some people have either said no to DeSantis because they want Trump, or they've said no to DeSantis and Trump. And one way or the other, DeSantis is really on the losing end of both. But Marjorie Taylor Greene trashing on him is just, it's wonderful. Instead of wasting all of her endless screaming power on everybody else, she's now directing it inward where it belongs. So it's a beautiful thing. Nevertheless, I think she will probably trash anybody that's trying to use Twitter. Most likely because she's already been rebanned, from what I recall. And it's probably only going to get worse. Anyway, so yeah, that all happened. I don't think I have much more to say on that one, though someone will probably bring up more. But yeah, I gotta admit, I'm enjoying more and more all of the drama that's coming up of this. And by the way, I just I can't stop enjoying watching Disney just serve one L after another to DeSantis. That man is just... It is the David and Goliath story. If the entire story is literally just Goliath standing up there taking a whiz on David's head, and David standing down there like, I need a rock. Anyone got a rock? Can someone loan me a rock? There's no rock. I got nothing. I don't like being peed on. Can you stop? It's pretty much where DeSantis is at. By the way, DeSantis, feel free to @ me, bro. I would love it if you would @ me. I admit I've got a feistiness going on today. I want all these dumbasses to take their L's wherever they come. But speaking of someplace taking an L, Sony announced a 8-inch portable gaming device, or 8-inch screen portable gaming device that is coming later this year, and it is basically just remote play for a PlayStation 5 over Wi-Fi, which I've we just talked about this in Discord. It's not like there's any particular shockers here, but yeah, it's an 8-inch screen. It's got some wings on it that look like they're straight out of a Michael Bay movie, or a Michael Bay Transformers movie. And I don't know. I think it would probably be nice to play on for what it's supposed to be. But, massive but, it is only meant for use inside of the house, at least as far as we can tell. It's obviously going to be pre-limited. It doesn't actually play games on the device. Rather, you are remote playing on a PlayStation 5 somewhere else in your home. I said it on Discord and I'll say it here. I think their target market, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this, but their target market is kids. Kids who want to play a game while the main TV is occupied. So it's going to be good if you want to play in your room. It's going to be good if you want to, I don't know, play late at night when everyone else would be asleep, and let's say hypothetically the people have bedrooms right next to the living room where where you otherwise would make a bunch of noise. It's going to be good for those handful of scenarios where this is specifically a appliance that you want to have in your house. Other than that, yeah, this is useless. To my knowledge, and maybe I missed this, I didn't watch the event, but did they announce? I'm pretty sure they didn't. Did they announce if there was any other function for this, or is it just for remote play? Let's see. Okay. All right. The report nailed a lot about the device, including that it relies on remote play and wouldn't be a cloud gaming device. So that kind of sucks. So presumably they don't even have cloud gaming in the equation here. That is a big mistake. Why would they not? That I don't get. So I was thinking if you're going to do sort of a thin device like this, to my mind, there are three things it should do. One is, assuming it's not going to actually play games on the device itself. Because that does keep down the price. It does, by a lot. You don't have to put in a high-powered chip. You just have to put in something that can decode a video signal and do some very basic processing. But to my mind, there are still three things this should do. Number one is what it does. It is Steam Link or Stream Link, whichever it was called. It should do that, and that's what it does. It should connect to a PlayStation 5 that's in the house, and the PlayStation 5 streams a video signal. You use the controls on the controller to play the game remotely, and that's it. That's what it does. I'm expecting it'll do that very well, so I don't see a problem with that. The next thing it should do, cloud gaming. It should 100% support cloud gaming. Now, maybe not out of the box, because Sony's cloud gaming situation is not exactly good, but it should be supported. It should be a feature that they would say, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. We just don't have it ready yet. But this device will work with that when the time comes. This is something that, I know this sounds bad, but even if they don't really have their plans worked out, they should absolutely have built that in as a feature. It should have been there day one. Or rather, they should have said, like, this is part of it. It should have been part of their announcement to say, this is going to happen. Here's the device you're going to use for it. That would have made a huge difference. They could have actually sold units, I think, if that were the case. The third thing it should do, yes, there's a third. It absolutely should have the ability to play local content. There should be a way to plug in storage, either an SD card, a USB key, a hard drive. Maybe it should have onboard storage. I don't know. I don't care. Give it a way to load up a freaking movie and just watch it. Or stream from services. Let people play YouTube on it. Let people play, I don't know, Hulu, Netflix, stuff like that. These are 3 basic things that do not have high power requirements. They do not have big functional requirements. They are very, very easy to do. And you would sell, let's be honest, did they give a price for this? I kind of don't care, but I bet anything with an 8-inch display, I'm assuming did they give a resolution? This has got to be 1080p, right? Let's see, more specifically, it'll have an LCD screen running games at up to 1080p and 60 frames per second over Wi-Fi. Okay, good. So 1080p. If it doesn't do these things, it's a big miss. I don't see a price. Okay. The word price doesn't appear in the article either. Regardless, I hold the belief that they would sell a decent number of these if it could do all 3 of the things I listed. And you could leave out cloud gaming, honestly, and I bet they would still do okay. Cloud gaming is a thing that's only going to matter to a select group of people, but let's see. As Sony says, or sorry, as The Verge says, however, Sony is one of the foremost companies with a cloud gaming service, one it currently seems to be overhauling based on many job postings we dug up. So it's possible that the queue adds cloud gaming at a later date. Yeah, I'm sorry, but by all accounts, their cloud gaming service is pretty not great. So my hunch is they need to... I just think what they needed to do is announce that it would be supported. Even if they can update it later to add that, and that's fine, they should have announced it was on the support list. Or on the plans. Let's see. Yeah, they didn't mention PS Now. Sorry, I'm reading comments. Hoopy. And before it does cloud gaming, but you have to be streaming to the PS5, and the PS5 streams to this. I could see that happening, but I don't think that's going to happen. If they do legitimately add cloud gaming support, my hunch is that they will at least be smart enough to have it travel straight to this device. Not only will that cut down on a little bit of lag, but it would give them the one selling point that I think would actually make this device appealing. It would basically be a way for them to say, oh yeah, you don't want to buy a PS5, but you want access to exclusive games. Well, buy this other thing from us instead, and you can have access to those exclusive games. It won't be as nice of an experience, but you can do it at a lower cost. I think that would be their sales pitch. And seeing as Sony, I believe, is not making money on the PS5 yet, on individual units. And if that's the case, this remote display would, I bet almost anything, it is a big profit margin device. So this would be a way for them to sell cloud gaming while actually making money on a piece of hardware for it. Let's see. Hoopy, you think you saw something recently about they start to crack a profit on the PS5? Okay, even if they're technically making a profit, whether it's a few dollars or even more, I will still bet almost anything that this remote play device, I bet this is just huge profit. Whatever it's going to cost. I mean, it is just an 8-inch LCD screen, not even OLED. It's just a controller, a screen, some Wi-Fi antennas, a couple of chips. Like, there's not a lot here. You could build this. You could build an Android device like this. Also, it's 1080p on an 8-inch LCD. Let's be honest, that's not even a super high resolution. It's fine. Like, it'll look good. It'll look good, but it's not the crazy resolution that you'd see out of like an Aquos or a few of the Sony phones. So like, and those are all smaller screens in this too. So yeah, the pixel density is not super high. So yeah, my hunch, the component, like the bill of materials for this is probably right around $50, and they're probably going to sell it for, I'm guessing, $250, give or take, maybe as low as $200. But it's going to be huge profit, and if they were to make this connect to their cloud gaming service, that's money. Like, a bunch of people who want access to exclusive games, rather than paying. How much does a PS5 cost? Let's see. For the digital edition, $400. Okay, so for half that price, hypothetically, you could. I'm just making up a price, but for half that price, you could get just a display and controller, basically, that gives you access to a cloud gaming service where you would still have to pay for the games. You'd probably have to pay like a monthly membership or something. Also, you can play games, and instead of barely making a profit on a PS5, they could make, again, I'm guessing, they could make a 75% profit-ish. Even if it's 50%, if the bill of materials somehow comes up to $100, who cares? If they can sell this for $200, they're making huge profit on this thing. And it would be worth it. So I think the smart move, get this thing on cloud gaming and then just lean back and watch the money roll in. I say watch the money roll in. Realistically, it would be a pretty trivial amount in their big grand scheme, but it would be more profit than what they're making now. Hoopy said, really doesn't matter, or sorry, really, if it doesn't have at least a Netflix app, they're crazy. Yeah. To me, put on Netflix, put on Disney Plus, put on YouTube, Hulu, a couple of other things. Make those apps available. Put on like some parental controls, because again, this is going to be in kids' hands all the time. But put on basic controls. Work out deals with those companies, because those companies typically, I think they're still paying to put their apps on products. At least some of them are. Yeah. Just make it so they're the only services people can access. Tie in whatever controls they need, and you have a money-making device if there ever was one. And there's a effing fly in here. Of course there is. Just gonna... I've got a new zapper, by the way, which hopefully will make this a little easier to get some kills in. No, he saw you for a second. Come out and play. Oh, that was a pop. Where'd you go? Oh, he got up. You bastard. Okay. Let's see. You want to play. Well, we're just going to have to do something about that. As I make sure I don't have any food or bottles of liquid for a fly corpse to go landing into. Pete is going to cancel this channel. They can at me if they like. Anyway. But yeah, I agree. If they don't have some sort of local entertainment or streamable entertainment, either one, besides just relying on a PS5, then this thing deserves it. It may, I don't think it's going to be successful, but it deserves to fail if it doesn't have a way of doing that stuff. Let's see. Poopy, if that's a fully featured PS5 controller, that's a pretty good chunk of change right there. Yes and no. So you're right. A PS5 controller, the components, yes, are more expensive. Like, you know, they have how many vibrating motors are in there? Haptic motors. I seem to remember, I think they had 3. I know there's multiple motors now. And I think the buttons, or no, the triggers. The triggers had some sort of a feedback feature. So it's at least a vibrating motor plus whatever feedback feature they have on the triggers. So yes, those controllers are definitely more expensive than they used to be. They're pretty nicely designed. They are pretty powerful controllers. That said, let's see, how much does a PS5 controller cost? Quick search says around $70. Okay, so here's the thing though. Bill of material. Again, bill of material. That controller, I bet to build it, what does it really cost? $15? 20? Hell, 25. I don't know. All you have to do is, again, add a screen, add a little bit more plastic, and maybe you've got a well, you probably have a slightly stronger processor in there that obviously would have to do some like H.265 decoding, probably decoding a few different formats. Whether or not it is expected to do that, presumably it probably can do that, since I doubt they're buying a chip that is exclusive to just one format. So I'm still holding that the bill of materials gonna be under $100. So if the bill of materials is under $100, by the way, the reason I'm guessing the controller, the bill of materials should be relatively low, is because we've been hearing for years that one of the things that Sony and Microsoft have made huge money on is controller sales. Like, that's one of their biggest profit sources for the consoles, is selling more controllers. So my hunch is that there's got to be a lot of markup. And we have heard their markup is pretty good. I don't remember what it is for sure, but presumably it's not trivial. So yeah, anyway, I'm fundamentally holding to my belief that if they make this thing, it has some sort of a big markup attached to it. Whatever they sell it for, unless they're selling it for like I don't think they'll sell it for $100. if they sell it for even 150, they're going to make a decent markup, and I don't see them selling it for less than that. If they sell for 200, it's a great markup, and I think that's a given that's what they'll sell it for. If they sell it for higher, they're just chasing more markup, and I honestly don't think it's going to change the number of people that buy it. If they charge 200, 250, or even 300, I don't think it's really going to change how many people buy it. So they'll probably go even to higher prices. No way it sells under 300. Hoopy, are you sure? Because remember, you can get a digital edition PS5 for $400. And that has to have a bunch of storage, gigabytes of storage, like a lot of gigabytes of storage. I don't remember how much it comes with, but it has a lot of storage on it. It has a pretty powerful processor and GPU. It's a, let's see, it's obviously just physically a lot more device. They have more ports in it, that all of which have a licensing cost to it. There's so much more stuff in a PS5, even the digital edition, than this handheld is going to have. I gotta tell you, man, I cannot see them going over 300. I think 300 is a absolute hard cap. And if they do try anything higher than 300, they're insane. I could see it. I think 250 is, to me, I don't see this selling for anything over 250. And I think 250 is them being greedy. I think 200 is the right price for this, but we'll see. Let's see. Okay. All right. Before I read the current comment, Hoopy, you said, I'd hope from an engineer perspective that this is the PS5 OS with a whole lot of features turned off so that they can technically install PS5 games and just whitelist media apps only. Okay, I could see that. And that would be a good solution for the local for on-device streaming apps. The thing is, there are other ways that they could handle this. They could do it almost like a Chromecast kind of thing, where it is a very rudimentary interface. And honestly, the interface could even be provided by somewhere else. It could literally stream the interface to the device. And that could be used for picking what to watch. And then the things that get it. Yeah, anyway. They could just have a browser on there. Just like a basically just enough hardware to run a on-device browser, which would be how you access each of the services. And then they just code a little bit to go around it. Point is, I don't think they even need to go anywhere near a full PS5 OS. And on top of it, frankly, they could just put Android on there. That would cost them more, but they could. It really wouldn't be that hard or that expensive. And all of those developers who are already making Android apps for those media services, every single one of them would be like, oh, cool. We don't have to do anything except like go through your program and Hoopy. Okay, I see the latest comment. I think I'm understanding it perfectly, because at least that's what I'm talking about right now. It would save a lot of work. But the whole thing is, everything I've listed is about the amount of work they would have to do. If you're, for the developers at least. But also, honestly, for Sony. It really would save a lot of work for them too if they did any of these things. So yes, they could obviously load on the PlayStation 5 OS. The problem with that, in my mind, is they would still have to do a ton of development work to get the PlayStation 5 OS running on this thing with a bunch of stuff turned off. At least in testing and basic development. Meanwhile, if they loaded Android on there, look, they already kind of have that work done, and they can just tell the app developers at Disney and Netflix and Hulu and wherever else, they can literally just tell them, hey, you've got an Android app, just load it on here. If they did a web browser interface, all of these services offer a web interface. You can watch Netflix on the web. You can watch Disney Plus on the web. Like, all of these things would work. They're probably not super efficient, but you just need the web interface to make a call of some kind that basically loads them into like, again, a Chromecast like streaming experience. They could even license Chromecast, frankly, and just use not the full Chromecast functionality, but just use the streaming tech, and it would save everyone a ton of work. Basically, all I'm saying is there are other ways they could do this besides using a PS5 operating system. It wouldn't hurt them really, and in a lot of ways it would be cheaper to do it without using that. But hey, they could also use the PS5 interface. I don't think it really matters. I'm forgetting the most important benefit of their own OS over someone else's: upsell on accessories built for the PS5. Like what? What stuff requires their OS that you'd be able to use with this controller? I mean, isn't it the headphones? I mean, really? Does that necessitate their OS? And do the headphones not work with other devices or something? I'm not seeing the connection there. It just doesn't seem like that makes any notable difference. And as it is, I kind of assumed you could use any other headphones with the PS5 already. So yeah, I'm not seeing what difference those make. While you reply, or if you add anything to that, I'll scroll back up and look. You also said, don't forget this is going to be made in way lower volume, so economy of scale factors in, way less than normal controller. Yes, that I agree with. They're surely not going to sell huge numbers of these. At least I don't think so. Though this does introduce actually a fourth function that, if it's not supported, I think they'd be nuts not to support it, but they should do it. Imagine if they made this basically a like advanced controller. Was this a touch screen? Did they say? Okay, nothing mentioned in the Verge article about touch. So anyway, I don't know if the screen supports touch, but in the hypothetical that it does, I guess it doesn't really matter. Okay, anyway, so kind of the point here would be, imagine like something happens to your controller, or someone comes over to your place and you don't have a controller for them, but you do have one of these. This should be able to act as an extra controller without remote play. And now I don't know if it'll do this, but it should. You should just be able to connect a cable or connect wirelessly, whatever, and just use this as a regular controller, no question to it. That should also be a feature of this thing. But I think that's a relative niche detail. Let's see. Scrolling down, Hoopy. Individual components may get reused, but this will require a totally separate assembly. Yeah, totally agree on that. They'll definitely be reusing, I'm assuming, the sticks, the buttons, a few of the internal components, I assume, are probably also there. But yeah, different main board, for sure. Obviously, different main board. The shell itself, though, bear in mind, the shell is going to cost, I mean, even at small scale, the shell is going to cost nothing. The only part that's going to be expensive here is the display. Like, everything else, sure, even if it costs triple, because it's going to be made in smaller numbers, it doesn't matter. The only thing that's going to matter is the display, because that's going to end up costing them probably minimum $30 per unit. Maybe a little cheaper than that, but I guess it depends on how many they're ordering. The one caveat, it's possible that display might go into other devices too. They could be ordering the displays at scale. We just don't know where they might also be used. Sony could be putting that into some other product that is making huge numbers, and we just don't know it. Or they might be planning other products that might make that make sense. Then you said, don't forget this is going to sell at way lower volume. Wait, didn't I read that? Yeah, you said that twice. Which means cost to assemble is way higher. Plus, this will be sold as a, quote, console, not a controller. I don't think they're selling this as a console. Like, I don't think they're trying to sell that narrative, are they? I see you're saying that there's a lot of reasons why this needs to cost a lot. I'm not seeing it. If they're doing what a business should do, they should be looking for ways that this is profitable, which I described, and ways that this doesn't need to cost a lot. And I'm not seeing a reason why this has to be as expensive as you're saying. I mean, yes, there are going to be components in here that are not cheap, and yes, they're going to be making a relatively low number of these. This isn't going to be a boutique item. This isn't like handcrafted remote play controller from the foothills of Taiwan. No, this is going to be, they're still going to make, I don't know, 50,000, 100,000 of these day one. So, yes, they're making them at a smaller scale than they would be controllers, but I don't think that they're going to be selling, they don't have to account for these things being sold like 12. This isn't like Asus making an ROG phone. This is Sony making an accessory that, even if it's not going to sell in huge numbers, they're going to sell a lot of these. So there will be some amount of scale that they can do. And again, if some of these components can be sold or can be purchased for multiple projects, they're probably going to bulk order a lot more than we're thinking. Okay, anyway. So getting down to the PlayStation 5 headphone thing. They use a proprietary protocol that requires a USB dongle. Why? So why put Bluetooth on this when they can put that in instead and require you to buy their $100 headphones? Okay, so that's fine. I mean, I get the pitch, but that still doesn't, that has nothing to do with their OS. That doesn't explain needing to put in their OS. Even if it did, their OS is probably, like, they can probably still make this thing only compatible with their headphones without using the PlayStation 5 OS. I just don't see a reason they need to pack in that much power, which is a weird thing to say because I'm sure the PlayStation 5 OS doesn't require that much power. I'm thinking they can probably make it even cheaper. And that is the fundamental nature of what I'm saying. I think they can make this thing pretty cheaply. That's it. I don't think that is a big statement. David, this thing looks comical. It does, but I'm gonna throw this back a little bit. I feel like this is basically a Steam Deck, but they changed the shape of the controllers. Isn't the Steam Deck a like 7-inch or 7.5-inch display? How much is it? Steam Deck display is 7-inch, yeah. So yeah, it's got 1 more inch of display size, and the controllers, the handles stick out a little bit more. That's not that crazy. Hoopy, Sony's different divisions, famously good at coordinating needs. Don't get me wrong, I'm not disputing that one. Counterpoint, we don't know who's making the display. Sony could be the one making the display. If they are, they're also not paying full price for the display. So it wouldn't even necessarily matter what division. They could just actually be, taking advantage of their own product. You just think they're empowered to charge a lot. I agree. But my definition of a lot in this instance is I think the cap is $250 because I don't think even they're dumb enough to think that they can get more than that for this. Which, to be fair, is sort of like pointing to any company and saying, I don't think they can be dumb enough, ... but they are. Like, most people didn't think that most people didn't think that Apple was going to be dumb enough to do AR goggles for $3,000, but well, we just have to wait a few more. We have to wait a little bit longer, and we're going to watch Apple announce a $3,000 AR headset. So who knows? Nobody thought Google was going to, well, I say nobody, but plenty of people obviously thought Google was going to be dumb enough to do the Pixel tablet as a premium, high-end, expensive thing. And they're somehow managing to land right in the middle of this with something that is not that premium, but it's too expensive to be budget. But whatever. Hoopy, if Nintendo can charge up to $350 for the OLED, Sony definitely will consider that. But this doesn't play games. That's the catch. The Switch plays actual games locally on device. It has something. I just cannot fathom a remote play device that can't actually play the games coming anywhere close to the price of something that can. Let's see. Powers if Apple doesn't run Darwin on both a watch and an M2. I mean, that's a pretty stretched comparison. Awesome. Don't mock having an extra inch. Who said anything about mocking that? That seems like a point of pride. Let's see. Austin, I don't think Sony makes displays. That's funny. Let's see. Hoopy. Also, keeping in mind that since this doesn't seem to sell subs or games requiring you already have a PS5, the only profit Sony ever makes off this will be at time of sale. Not disputing that, though half of this, well, the longer this discussion goes on, the less it becomes half. But the start of this whole thing was me saying they're dumb if they don't tie this to cloud gaming. So someday it could sell subs. And very notably, it can actually be selling subs if they add streaming services. If they put in Netflix and Disney Plus and things like that. The deals that most companies have is that they include those apps, like add install time or setup time on devices. And then when people sign up, a lot of times there's a kickback that comes for that acquisition. So, I mean, Sony can make a lot of money if they just add the features to this device. This device has a potential for future monetization. I think it would be a huge mistake to assume that they're not going to do something down the line with this. So, and who knows? Maybe they just won't sell enough of them to even think that's worth doing. We don't know, but or maybe they will sell too many of them and realize they have to do more. I do not see that happening, but let's pretend it could. Let's see. The Switch runs a nearly decade-old chip previously developed before Nintendo got involved. The SoC in it cannot possibly be that expensive next to whatever off-the-shelf part can do 1080p or 1080 at 60 streaming. So, oh wow. Okay, so first off, 1080 at 60 streaming, you can do that in chips that are like under $10. Well, I think even at user costs you can do that on chips that are under $10. I'm sure at scale you can do that. Like if you're buying lots of like 100,000 at once, you can guaranteed do that dirt cheap. And low latency for streaming games. You're still not necessarily asking that much. I mean, these components are not that astronomically expensive. Which is why the Chromecast non-ultras couldn't do Stadia. Did we ever actually get proof of that? I'm not sure. I thought that I seem to remember there being something about the Ultra supporting some sort of hardware feature that had to do with the controllers or something like that. Plus, and this always seemed like a narrative thing, but supposedly there was that whole thing where they wanted to make sure that Stadia could always stream to 4K screens or something. But whatever that narrative was, who cares? The thing is, that was all history. I mean, Chromecast Ultra, when did that come out? Realistic. That was Chromecast Ultra release date was 2016, end of 2016. So, and it had a launch price of $35. So whatever components, I mean, if we're going to use the Chromecast Ultra as our bedrock example, for $35, they could do that. For $35, that includes packaging, licensing, whatever patent fees are involved. That includes all of that in $35. And they were still making a profit, like everyone knows they were. Or, oh, wait, damn it. I was looking at the wrong column. Okay, sorry, $69. But I'm going to automatically knock it down to $50 because that's what you can get a Chromecast with Google TV for, and they supported Stadia on that. So at a bare minimum, a $50 device that they certainly fit the hardware into that. I'm sorry, but low latency streaming and 1080 decoding at 60 frames per second is not that demanding anymore. This is a pretty low bar. The components do not cost that much. It's just not that hard to do this. And you don't need to have an SoC that's pushing big high power to hit this point. Let's see. Also, but maybe one day it will make profit from streaming is a really naive thing to say when it comes to Sony. They've been hiring for streaming and making big announcements for years. Look, I know that you're not taking a shot at me saying that, but and I'm like, again, I'm not pitching that this is what they're gonna do. I'm saying it is a thing they can do. It is a thing they can try to do. Just because they're not doing it today doesn't mean that they won't do it someday. They absolutely could do it, or try to do it. Actually, I would sooner argue that they will probably lose money trying to do streaming, because they will probably do it very poorly and people won't be happy about it. But that's a separate discussion. Let's see, your point is the Switch is a pretty low bar as well. Yeah, that's fine. But again, it plays games locally. I'm sorry, but I cannot leave that point alone. A Switch plays games locally. For that is worth an extra $100 for a device that is otherwise basically the same. Because outside of screen size difference, and again, we're also talking about an LCD screen as opposed to an OLED. I think that matters here, at least a bit. That price difference is, I just cannot see a way for them charging over $250, and I still think $250 is too high. But to me, $250 is that line where they're not going to be able to do better. And if nothing else, take this for what it's worth. But $250, bear in mind, is also what I think they'd be able to sell it for. Forget the question of what they think they can sell it for, in terms of like how entitled Sony may try to be. At the end of the day, if they try to launch this thing at, you're saying $300 to $350, and that's kind of what I'm interpreting. You said you don't see it selling for under $300. So let's say hypothetically they try selling it for $300 or $350. It comes out and no one buys it. What then? It's Sony. Sony is sort of famous for this. They'll drop prices. It within what, 3 months? If it's not selling in 3 months, it'll be $250 or $200. Hell, if it's really doing terribly, we'll see these things fire sale for $150, possibly lower. Who knows? If it does as bad as what I think all of us are expecting, they're gonna dump this thing for cheap. And if all of a sudden it does really well, then they might start experimenting and finding some way to do this thing again, just with a slightly different price point. And that's the thing that they'll actually try to push. But let's see. Anyway, why did my phone just suddenly explode? Okay. What the hell? Oh, geez. Apparently there's some Carrie Lake news popping up. That can't be good. Okay. Anyway. Your point was that Switch is a pretty low bar as well. It's not a Chromecast, but it's not a big high-powered chip nowadays. Austin, I'm pretty sure Sony over-engineered the hell out of this. If they were smart, they would just hire a Chinese Switch knockoff company to OEM for them. The thing is, I kind of honestly think that might be what they did. Because other than the controller part itself, nothing about this really screams to me that it's any different than what any other Chinese company is probably already throwing together. Like, this could be a basic, like an off-the-shelf, like, bad gaming handset that they're just repackaging with Sony components. That would be a really easy thing for them to do. Just buy all the components for, or, you know, manufacture all the components for a controller, repackage some junk controller that somebody else makes. Again, you could make this thing so cheap. Presuming, of course, that their components don't cost too much, but yeah, the thing is, I don't know that Sony over-engineered this. They could have pulled this from any OEM. Hoopy, the LED switch is only 720 and also 300. Okay. And a pretty crappy LED at that. Is it? I have not seen one. Let's see. It's not the flagship of the mobile division or the PlayStation itself. Sony would absolutely try and sell it for a quick profit and then discontinue after a year. The thing is, even if they're launching this thing at $350, I mean, I've already said I don't think that it's going to sell, but even if they launch it at $350, they will just drop the price. Sure, some people will get angry if they bought it at full price right out of the gate. Austin, you're disappointed by the amount of AI in this RambleCast. Sorry, what can I say? Just like Microsoft, I stopped paying attention to, or sorry, just like everyone who was watching Microsoft's keynote, I just stopped paying attention to the AI discussion pretty quick and moved on to other things. Which, by the way, was anyone watching stock prices yesterday for Microsoft? They just kept going down. Like, it wasn't free fall, but it was not good. They ate some crow on yesterday's announcements. Let's see, which I guess today they actually made back a little bit of their money, but not that this is at all important, but this is for this is 1 week back. They started the day, if anyone's watching the stream, they started the day there and ended up all the way down there. So yeah, that's a pretty deep fall for them. Anyway, yeah, not their best day on the market. Let's see though. Anyway, yeah, so I'm sticking by. I mean, we're arguing over a price that they haven't announced yet. I think, and to some extent, I think that might even be what's going on right now. Sony announced this thing without a price, at least as far as we can tell, or I can tell. So they announced without a price. Chances are they're waiting to see how people react to it. And right now, everyone's basically saying this thing looks mediocre at best. We're not interested in it, and you know, no one's going to buy this thing, or very few people are going to buy this thing. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that's the narrative most people are saying. I think that's what everyone's thinking of this. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just do not understand the gaming industry. Maybe there's a huge contingent of people that are looking at this just lusting after it. But if there aren't, then it's a pretty good sign that Sony's probably also watching that and going to come away saying, damn it, okay, people aren't excited, let's aim lower on this. But maybe not. Sony's also famously tone deaf. Or rather, their Sony gaming division is famously tone deaf. Anyway, so yeah, my God, seriously, I could be wrong, but I think we've been on this for over 40 minutes. This might actually be close to an hour on this topic, which I thought this was going to be a laugh at it and move on. Sony just needs to put an IR thermometer on this. That would be something. What it needs to have is a plug-in for a FLIR camera. Okay, so we can always come back to this, but I am going to switch over to the other company that I want to make a tone-deaf joke or talk about their blunders, and in this specific context, I think there is a blunder coming. But there is a report from Mark Gurman, because who else would do it? And of course, I have to do some Apple stuff in here. But they are planning a smart display style mode for iOS 17. The idea is, apparently, that if an iPhone is currently locked and in landscape orientation, then this will give you a smart display sort of interface. Okay, so I have questions. Actually, I don't really have that many questions. I have some doubts. And okay, there's no other good pictures in the Bloomberg article, and I don't think, honestly, that there are going to be any other worthwhile details. Oh, wait, new iOS also will offer wallet improvements and boost performance. Yeah, okay, whatever. So here are a couple of my questions. First off, when do you ever have an iPhone locked and in landscape orientation? And don't get me wrong, I know full well you could absolutely have a you could have an iPhone on like a Qi charging dock, as many iPhone users now often do. They'll have a dock for this. Yes, I know. Right now I'm just kind of making fun of what they already have out. But yes, I do expect that this will bring new features, or rather new products, new features, etc., etc. But the thing is, most people seem to kind of prefer their iPhones being upright. At least that's the impression I've gotten from most of the iPhone owners I know. They kind of and most docks don't tend to put the phone in landscape. None of this to say that they can't. Obviously, there are plenty of ways to do it. People do it all the time. There are even apps out there that are designed to be like running in landscape orientation, as like smart clocks and things like that. Okay, Hoopy moving the controller discussion to Discord. But anyway, so with the iOS 17 feature that is being pitched here, the idea, I think, would be that it seems like to me they might be setting this up more for iPads. Because an iPad, frankly, it makes a little bit more sense to use as a smart display. They can do it for phones. There's no real reason they can't. But I was kind of under the impression they already, or may want to be doing more of an alarm clock style thing with those, and I thought they already had. Admittedly, I haven't used an iPhone as a main in a very, very long time, so certainly preceding that, but that was a rumor too. Yeah. And an alarm clock style thing makes a lot more sense. But yeah, doing it as a quote unquote smart display and comparing it to a Nest Hub just doesn't seem it doesn't seem right. I could see doing this with an iPad, and frankly, I think what they should probably do, and I know that this sounds maybe a little reductive to say this, but they should probably copy what Google just did with the Pixel tablet. Make a dock with a magnetic back for an iPad, give it Qi charging, and yeah, just do the exact same thing, but make it a good speaker. That honestly is like the biggest issue. Just make the speaker not suck. Make it a larger speaker, make it something people want, and that'll be a big difference. So yeah, I don't know, I honestly thought I was gonna have more to say on this, but I just feel like this is one of those things. It's very obviously like both Apple-like and also very un-Apple-y to be doing this, because it doesn't seem like the kind of thing where an iPhone is going to do well in this sort of like forced orientation. Honestly, it makes sense. Apple really wants to be in the smart home game. Do they? I know that might sound a little dismissive, but do they? Because you sure as hell can't tell from their HomeKit support. You can't really tell from the software that they have to operate HomeKit. It seems like they kind of lost interest in it. I know companies that are making smart home stuff, and I've literally seen, I'm not going to name who, but I've literally seen embargoes from companies very recently that are announcing new smart home products, and these aren't even low dollar companies. Like, these aren't not the Chinese knockoff companies. These are mainstream higher dollar smart home products. And I've literally seen their PR people ask the question, or people asking them the question. Sorry, I said asked with an ED at the end, but I'm not sure that was audible. But I've heard people asking them the question, like, why no HomeKit? And they basically just do we have nothing to comment on at this time. Like, they're avoiding questions about HomeKit. They don't want to support it. And the reasons are plentiful, but it seems like Apple just gives too little concern about this. Apple joined Matter without the EU forcing them. I wouldn't say that matters yet. Especially because Matter is still basically useless for anything but bearing. Matter 1.0 is not a highly functional thing yet. So yeah, I just don't think we're there. Hoopy, this feels like salvaging their, as far as I've seen, poorly received always on display feature and turning it into an accessory to sell. That part I agree with. Yeah, I have a feeling what Apple is going to do is probably sell a tiny little charging dock that is meant to be traveled with. Sort of a put it on your nightstand, plug it into something. Maybe it would have a built-in battery. I don't know. But yeah, something that would just prop your iPhone into perfect landscape orientation. Maybe they'll also sell some cases that do this and a couple of other things. I fully expect that, yes. I don't see anything wrong with it. I just think it's a little bit on the... It's a little funny that that's not what they're pitching, or as part of this rumor. Not yet. it's more, Mark Gurman seems to be kind of more pitching that this is the precursor to something like a Nest Hub. And that I think is a lot more likely. So they're, in theory, they're going to try for a new Siri powered device, but it will have a display exactly like a Nest Hub, an Echo Show, or any other smart display. And honestly, I think that's what they're really going to make. Of course, it will run on iOS 17, but no one will really interact with it as iOS 17. I'm sure it'll have its own interface and behave like a smart display. It may have some iOS-like qualities to it, but I think it'll be, kind of like the watch in that it'll run really lightweight. It won't have too many top-level standard iOS features. It'll just have what they need for it to be a smart display. Because let's be honest, their Siri speakers did not do super well. And a lot of that comes down to Siri fell behind. People weren't happy with it. It was not reliable enough. It did not do enough. I've been listening to this podcast that admittedly is several years behind, or I'm several years behind on this podcast, but they got the episodes I'm listening to right now are from 2018. Yes, feel free to mock how outdated that is, but they're talking about customer satisfaction polls that were done for Siri, for Apple products. And somebody had asked, what were the customer satisfaction numbers for all these different things about the iPhone? And the iPhone, things like Face ID, which at that time was new, and the App Store and various other things, everything had really good high customer satisfaction numbers until you got to Siri. Their customer sat numbers were 20%, according to this one poll. 20% of people were actually happy with Siri. You gotta figure that when they then proceed to launch the HomePod and its only control mechanism is Siri, or you can use AirPlay, that sucks. There's a reason the HomePod did not do well, because Siri was basically already seen as a bad thing, and it's still seen as the least of the three things out there. It's not as good as Alexa. It's not as good as Google Assistant. So, Hoopy, you've seen iPhone users complain that Siri has actively gotten worse over time. I have heard people say that. Here's the thing, and maybe I'm wrong. I could certainly be wrong on this, but I have had this hunch. I don't think it actually got worse over time. It's that I think people are becoming more aware of how Siri does not compete with the other things. And as people become more aware of it, they're speaking out more and more. I think Siri is just languishing, and it probably is getting a little bit worse in small ways. Certain specific functions probably don't work as reliably as they used to. But David, Siri sucks. I don't bother anymore. But I think it really probably hasn't gotten significantly worse. It just feels like it has. Because obviously, you compare it to Google Assistant, it's comical. The two don't even come close anymore. Google Assistant just blows away Siri. And Alexa, despite how bad Amazon is at almost everything, Alexa's just had enough time to get better, and seems like they kept trying. For whatever reason, Apple just checked out on Siri. Anyway, scrolling back up, which, by the way, this thing from Mac Rumors that Awesome posted. Apple planning to offer iPad smart home dock before HomePad with a screen. I do remember seeing this image. In fact, I think I remember us even talking about this on here. So they're working on a dock accessory design for an iPad that would basically turn it into a smart home display. Okay, so yeah, this would go along obviously very well with the rumor for iOS 17, which is good. Yay for that. Let's see. So getting back into the comments, I think I'll probably be able to catch up on these quickly. Hoopy said it's a question of did Apple add Matter support because they want to be in smart home more, or because they didn't care about it at all and this is an easy way for them to bail on smart homes? Hoopy, yes, exactly. Honestly, I think that's precisely what it is. Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think predominantly they saw this as a way that they could still have a thing for smart homes. They could show that they were quote unquote making progress, but it would cost them next to nothing to do it. This is something you could task 2 engineers with. They could basically sit back and just add Matter support to everything in the Apple lineup, and it would just be good enough. And it would take them, you know, a couple of months to do it. Maybe a little more, whatever. But yeah, it's a low-cost way to show that they're still making progress and eventually be able to say, look at all the devices that are supported by HomeKit. But at the end of the day, yeah, I think they wanted to bail. But in the offhand chance that they change their mind or learn to care more about it, or see a potential big profit center that they were otherwise ignoring, by maintaining some sort of progress with Matter, I think that might be, you know, they can keep their foot in the door without walking through it. So, you know, yeah, that's it. I think it's a strategic safety net, but that's all. Could be new MagSafe docks that enable sleep display mode or whatever, and coincidentally require special made docks. Doesn't work with existing ones. Okay, I think I see what you were referring to. Let's see. Austin, I feel like Apple just expected everyone to jump through hoops to get HomeKit support, and businesses just went with Amazon instead. Well, Amazon and Google, yes. But also, HomeKit, if you want to put the HomeKit logo on your box, on your packaging, it is expensive. You have to pay a lot to be certified for HomeKit. And that, I mean, I literally know that is a big reason that certain companies do not support HomeKit, because the cost of getting HomeKit certified and being able to put a logo on your box is kind of high. It was high enough that they figured they would not be able to make profit on the units that they sold, or they would just have to raise the prices too much to make them competitive. So they are not doing it. So that's basically why you see a ton of companies not supporting HomeKit. There are others that just don't want to support it because it's not a very good landscape for smart home. Everyone who's doing smart home stuff, for the most part, is trying to do it on Google Assistant devices or Amazon devices, because almost everything is already in that ecosystem. And so people just have to buy a couple of black cylinders that you can talk to, or they might buy a tablet or a couple of devices, whatever, things that they can leave lying around the house, basically, usually plugged in, obviously, that will work for their smart home things. And they can control some of it with apps and whatever on a Apple device, but that's it. So the thing is, we're falling into that same hole where we're kind of falling into that ecosystem hole where a lot of people are choosing to go with Google Assistant or Alexa because the devices are there. And as a result, the device is keeping built just for those two, because everyone is saying, well, if we don't have to support Apple, why pay the cost to support Apple? So they just don't. You know, and I don't know how long that's going to last, or if it'll change due to Matter someday. If Matter goes to 2.0 and starts adding enough features, it might change. I don't know that I would bet on it. Let's see. Anyway, David, I don't know. I hope we get something like sunrise mode or whatever, like the Pixel Stand. I could see that. Yeah, could be cool. Hoopy, I've seen iPhone users complain that Siri has actively gotten worse. We talked about that. Apparently, at launch, Siri could add songs to playlists from HomePod, even for Spotify, and now it can't even do that for Apple Music. No. Spotify was not supported at launch. You could AirPlay Spotify to it. So if you were controlling Spotify on your phone, you could AirPlay from your phone to a HomePod, but HomePod did not support Spotify through Siri. I know this because, again, I'm listening to a podcast from 2018 that talked very specifically about this. So the people on this podcast talked a lot, tirelessly, it seemed, about how much Siri sucked and how much the HomePod kind of actually sucked because it couldn't support things like Spotify. All it supported at launch was Apple Music and Deezer, I think, and maybe there was like one other thing. I think it was just Apple Music in the US, and then overseas it was whatever one or two services were preferred overseas. Let's see. David, Siri sucks. I don't bother anymore. Hoopy, apparently Siri used to have a lot of more in-UI features, like the ability to draw graphs like Wolfram Alpha does, and now it just shows you search results. That part's probably very true. I remember it showing more things like that. And since I don't use Siri now, even though technically I could obviously absolutely use it on my MacBook Pro if I cared. But that's not about to happen. Anyway, the reality of it is, I think they probably were paying for that off of Wolfram Alpha, and at some point they probably just decided it wasn't worth the cost. I bet Apple just got cheap. Or maybe they found that they were doing this stuff and it just wasn't really making users happy, and so they just killed it. Either one's possible. Hoopy, going all in on Matter doesn't just keep an Apple's smart home offering in the game for their customers, it also makes it not their fault if the ecosystem continues to suck. That's fair. I don't think Apple cares. Or wait, if the ecosystem continues to suck, are you talking about the ecosystem for Matter, or are you talking about the ecosystem for HomeKit? Because you could look at this from either way. If the ecosystem for HomeKit, ecosystem for Apple users, okay. Because I'm amusing myself at the possibility of talking about this from the context of, or the other context. But yeah, if the ecosystem for Apple users continues to suck, the thing is though, going all in on Matter doesn't necessarily make the ecosystem for Apple users better. All it really does is guarantee that they'll be able to control some lights and maybe a couple of other simple devices. But Matter 1.0, and that's the whole issue. Until Matter 2.0, or whatever version number they're going to call it, it doesn't support enough. It is a pretty weak protocol. It is very, very limited. It cannot do video. It cannot do audio. I think it can be used for pairing with audio devices, but you would still have to have like a separate way to do audio streaming. So whatever you're going to do with Matter right now is not good enough. Let's see. Hoopy, I suspect the existence of Google and Amazon's dirt cheap speakers also just ate up Apple's willingness to get into the market. Oh, sorry. I wanted to go back and first talking about the Matter thing. So the other way to have interpreted that, which I think is hilarious, which is the only reason I'm going to bring it up here. You could have meant it in the context of people are going to complain that Matter sucks. And if Apple doesn't support Matter, people might blame Apple for the reason Matter sucks. I could see that 100% being a thing, that all of a sudden Apple will get the blame for Matter being a terrible ecosystem. You know, obviously we blame Apple for not supporting RCS, for example. And it would be really hilarious if Apple took the blame for Matter being a terrible thing. Realistically, I don't think that's gonna matter. So, you know, pun not intended. I think Matter is going to generally be a bad thing until someday when it finally becomes not a bad thing. Sort of like how Bluetooth has been a bad thing for many, 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 many years, and progressively becomes a little bit less bad with each passing iteration. And you can tell someday they figure, maybe, just maybe, it might finally not be terrible. I look forward to that day coming probably weeks before my death of old age. I swear, the Bluetooth, what is it, SIG? No, is it the Bluetooth SIG? Whatever. Anyway, I swear, I think those guys just dream of a day that they can be Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi people like. Everyone's pretty happy about Wi-Fi. Bluetooth, man, Bluetooth sucks. Anyway, let's see, Hoopy, I suspect the existence of Google and Amazon's dirt cheap speakers. Okay, so, yeah, I agree. I think that probably took a lot of the wind out of Apple's sails. The thing is, Apple was already so late to delivering the HomePod. I'm not sure that I hate using the word matter over and over again, but I don't think that, I think that they were trying to tackle a part of the market and they just whiffed it. They came out with a product that was too little, too late, in a market that was already bigger, more powerful, and had momentum for its existing players. And was almost by design going to make the existing players more successful. Especially because Apple was trying to trying to be involved in a market that by its very nature is not that conducive to Apple's style. And what I mean by this is smart home stuff is mostly, not exclusively, but most of it's not that sexy. It's a lot of smart plugs. It's light bulbs. It's door locks. It's a lot of things that don't have that same Apple, you know, high quality premium product feel to them. Show of hands, I dare you. How many people want a smart plug that costs, you know, $60 and it looks a little bit nicer and has, I don't know, some Apple-like features attached to it? I'm thinking not very many hands. Maybe that'd be good. I don't know. Depends on the features, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of people jumping on that. I think most people would rather spend $20 on a smart plug. If it worked without issues, would consider it. Yeah, sure thing. Because yes, a lot of smart plug features actually, or smart plugs aren't that reliable. But realistically, I think people would rather just pay for a $20 smart plug that works. And, you know, maybe it's not sexy. Maybe it has no features besides the fact that it turns on and off, but it just does what it's supposed to do, and that's all it does. And, like, what crazy, amazing Apple feature are you going to add to it that's going to suddenly make it worth $50 or $60, which is what they would probably charge? So instead, you know, there's a huge ecosystem of existing products, and Apple's trying to work with that, but it's also not really their wheelhouse to be friendly to that kind of market. So I don't know. That kind of goes off into staggering various other versions of how to talk about this. But let's see. Hoopy. Apple wants their competition to be $800 Samsung phones, not $30 Google speakers. Yes. Yes. Exactly. Plus, again, and you know, we've all, well, you said this, I said this. They just, Samsung and Google ate their lunch, both by being cheaper, but also just by being so much further ahead of them. The timing was just not good. They had too big of an advantage on timing, and Apple just came along years too late. Let's see. And also they were reliant on Siri, which they weren't investing enough in at that point. Let's see. Siri also did not support the HomePod when Siri launched. Frankly, I think Siri didn't support the HomePod when the HomePod launched. Let's see, Hoopy. It doesn't make it better that it makes it the Matter ecosystem sucks, not the HomeKit ecosystem sucks, which is a PR win for Apple. I mean, the thing is, even if Matter ends up, like if the Matter ecosystem sucks, nobody cares. Right now, everybody outside of tech circles doesn't have any idea what Matter is. They just know the box says it works with Google Assistant or Amazon Alexa. And all the devices that support Matter are going to keep including the logos for Alexa and Google Assistant. They're not all of a sudden going to switch to saying, oh, well, you know what? Those other two don't matter. We'll just put the Matter logo on here. Nope. That is not what's going to happen. Those boxes are going to keep carrying logos for Assistant and Alexa. That's how it's going to be. And so, frankly, people are going to keep looking for Apple HomeKit, and eventually they might learn to look for the Matter logo. But for right now, this is just going to continue being a big L for Apple. They can't come back away from this looking better, even if Matter ends up sucking, because it's all still going to work with the other two. Let's see. Hoopy, my point with the Matter thing is for Apple fans, not normal people, to have someone to blame other than Apple. Yeah, and they will. But at the end of the day, they might be able to blame somebody else. They're still going to say, okay, well, we don't have a choice. We still have to go get an Alexa speaker or a Google speaker. It doesn't matter who they have to blame. They're still going to be saying, we want our smart home stuff. All right, let's go get a device that can do that. And it's probably going to be Alexa in most of their cases, because it just usually is, because they get butthurt about Google. But at least the major Apple fans do. I think a lot of people don't care. But yeah, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who they're blaming. It just matters what they're buying. Anyway, it's hard to do anything now but point at Apple and say they self-inflicted this loss. Yeah, no, that's 100% true. I will say, though, I am very happy that Apple lost this fight. Imagine for a minute if Apple had won on the smart home game. I know that, you know, I'm sure some people would be very happy with that. But imagine if they had won and basically pushed Amazon and Google out of the equation. That would have been horrible. I reached over and just barely bumped the stupid watch, and now it's in its power on, power or charge uncharge cycle. Okay, I think nudging it fixed it, so good. I'm not gonna have that thing pestering me. Sorry, I'm just realizing I want to plug in my ancient iPhone SE really quick. I'll explain this in a second, but I want to make sure it's charged up. So just getting that done now. Reason being, I finally got around to ordering the Apple titanium card. Whole logic being that the only thing I have right now that I can use to buy something is either going online and buying something with the credit card details, or I have this first gen iPhone SE, which, you know, common sense, that's probably not going to last a whole lot longer. So I figured I should order the Apple titanium card just in case I ever need to walk into an Apple store and buy something right now. And I want to do it on their card. That's all. Anyway, I don't think there's much of a story or talking point there. Let's see. Earlier, Hoopy said the narrative becomes that this non-Apple thing is the problem, not Apple. Okay, yeah. Hoopy, Apple's smart home support is, well, quote, Apple's smart home support is great, but device makers aren't making Matter devices. Yeah, I'm sure people will say that, though, again, I really don't think that a lot of normal people are going to learn to look for the Matter logo or know that Matter is a thing unless Apple starts putting, like, inside of their whatever it's called. I know I have it on the Mac somewhere. I'm just quickly looking for it. Did I throw it all the way to this screen? Is it all the way on my last screen? I feel like it is. Huh. Wait, is it not on here or something? Did I possibly delete it? That would actually be really funny. Oh, okay, I left it on the first screen. That was an accident. Okay, so their home app. The thing is, even as I look at it now, like, I'm just skimming through it, looking for the word Matter, which I'm guessing they do not have printed anywhere. What the? Upgrade my home. Complete the steps to upgrade your home and take advantage of improved performance and reliability of the accessories in your home. Yeah, we'll look into that later. It detects that there are 2 rooms. I don't think I set these up, did I? There's a chance that I did, but I don't remember setting these up. Anyway, so the home app detects or knows about the office and living room, but it doesn't detect any devices in either of them. So that's fun. So yeah, anyway, if I don't see the word Matter anywhere, if I don't see any logo, it's not telling me what to go buy. The only thing I see is under the automation tab, or page, I guess, it shows me the Apple TV and the HomePod. That's it. It doesn't say anything about what devices you can buy, where you should get anything. Nothing. There is a Discover Home thing that says explore the possibilities and see how easy it is to add accessories to your home. Oh wow, I click on that, it just pops me to the Discover page. And within here they have individual groups of things that you can look at, but still none of this stuff is up front telling me about Matter. Oh, okay. I can click on, oh, this is actually worse. So I can click on the smart home accessories link. It pops out to the web browser, to the Apple Store homepage, or sorry, the Apple Store page for accessories that I can buy. So that's something. I mean, that's not terrible, but it's taking me to a place that's only going to have HomeKit supported stuff, I'm sure. Let's see. They have groups of things like security, where, yeah, they're listing items. No mention of Matter that I can see. And it looks like this is all stuff that's HomeKit supported. It wasn't anything like try the new HomeKit. It was a your home can be upgraded, which, funny enough, I clicked the do it later, and there is not. Oh, what the hell? Okay, in the settings thing, which is really hard to see, by the way, that's where it's at. So it's a home upgrade available. Home has a new underlying architecture that will improve performance of your home. Okay, well, sure. But what is this going to take? Some of your devices require a software update. Oh, no, this is not what it should be. The device... Okay, so the following devices you own won't be able to view or control my home until the latest software update is installed. The device that they're pointing to is my iPhone. That's it. That's the thing it wants me to update. Okay, sure. What happens if I click upgrade? Watch it break the iPhone. It wants to sign me into iCloud. I'm already signed into iCloud. You must be signed into iCloud to use Home. I definitely am. Okay, this is a real good user experience here, guys. Pro stuff. Pro. Average Apple Home experience. Yup. What am I supposed to do? I can't sign in any more than I'm signed in already. Is there a thing I need to turn on, maybe? No, Home is turned on. Let's see. I don't think that... Is Home even on this iPhone? Oh, it is. Okay. Oh, maybe... Okay. There was a... update, like an app update prompt. Allow Home to use your location. Sure. This iPhone can no longer view this home. This home requires software that isn't compatible with this iPhone. Okay, so no, that's not even the issue. Yeah, there's nothing I can do. So, yeah, this is... I don't think there's any way to look at this other than a total and utter failure on Apple's part. Wow, that is shockingly bad. So yeah, anyway, my original point was I just don't see anything pushing you towards Matter stuff. It's all still pushing you towards HomeKit stuff. So I mean, sure, yes, Apple's supporting Matter, but who cares? No, none of their users know it. Most people are just completely blind to what Matter is, so I don't think that's moving the needle on anything. So yeah, I guess we'll see. But yeah, right now I think Apple's just going to keep looking like the loser in the smart home battle, at least for a while to come. I can stop holding onto that zapper for a minute, I think. Anyway, so fun fact, the Bluetooth SIG and the USB consortium are the same people. Not really, but it feels like it. Low quality facts. And if you don't follow the low quality facts Mastodon channel, go find it. It's fun. Anyway, you know, the thing is, not joking, there's actually a huge overlap between the Bluetooth SIG and the USB consortium. That actually is, like, they're not technically the same people, but they are actually the same people, mostly. Let's see. I do think I do think in retrospect, if Apple had started slowly building a portfolio of smart home devices, starting with just lights even, they could have made a good place all to themselves instead of sharing. Yeah, I will agree with that. But I think there's a problem with it. And it's the same problem that it led to them dropping the Airport Extreme. Or, well, the Airport networking products. Not just the Extreme, but the other Airport products. The practical reality is, these were good enough devices, but it was a lot of R&D work, or, well, not R&D, but it was a lot of development time and work for products that didn't really make huge returns. And smart home is one of those things where you would sell some. Guaranteed, you would sell some. And the markup, honestly, on smart home stuff, at least for a while, was really good. And Apple stood to gain a lot from that. But the market was always going to go down. And I think Apple was smart recognizing that. Because eventually, like, a light bulb is a light bulb is a light bulb. And at a certain point, charging like 50, 60 bucks for a light bulb just because it's quote unquote smart, it starts getting hard to do. And when a whole lot of people are like, look, I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking at it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time controlling it or doing special things. I just want a thing that turns on and off and maybe changes brightness. And I think Apple was always going to kind of lose that fight. And there's still, in my mind at least, a big problem where, name how many different kinds of smart home things are popular to do at scale. It's light bulbs, maybe lamps, but more or less the light bulbs in them. It's security cameras, kind of, which it is what it is. Both indoor and outdoor, of course. You could do door locks, but a lot of people aren't allowed to swap door locks because they're renting. Actually, on the subject of security cameras, a lot of outdoor security cameras you're not allowed to install either because of rental. So you could do, indoor security cameras, but a lot of people don't really care as much about those. But that could be a thing, sure. Um, let's see. You could go full on home security with like the broken window detectors and like door opening stuff. But half of this stuff, again, you need to be able to modify your home, or it's not very good stuff. If it doesn't involve modifying the home, chances are it's not very good stuff. So most of these things, like Apple, I know this is about to sound kind of dumb, but it's also true. Apple, I think, likes to believe that its core audience is people who own their homes. But I think the reality is they know full well that most of their customers are also still just renters. And when you're talking about things that you can't sell to the entire world, it gets a lot harder to justify making those products. At least for a company like Apple. I think Apple wants to only make products that they can sell to everybody. You gave the list. Lights, plugs, cameras, locks. It's only the first two that they're going to be able to really sell to everyone. Those second two fall off really quick. And also there's so much competition for the cameras. And believe me, there's way too much competition for the cameras. Camera companies, I'll tell you this right now. Little bit of, I won't name names, but there are camera companies that are falling all over themselves, offering cameras to AP for review all the time. If somebody wanted to, they could. If one person wanted to be a full-time reviewer just for cameras, they basically could do it. It's not unrealistic. There are enough companies that make cameras throughout the year. They make enough different models at enough different price points. Somebody could realistically just make a living just doing reviews for cameras. There are that many of them. Would you really want to be Apple competing with that many when Apple's going to charge, I'm just going to ballpark, $200 for a camera, maybe $150, maybe more. Like maybe they'll be the super premium camera that has all the features. But would you really want to be Apple competing with that when the competition you're against is going to be selling $80, $50, literally $20 cameras, and some of them are actually pretty good. You're also suggesting Apple literally not support third-party smart home devices. Yeah, good luck with that. I mean, that would be a disaster. People would just truly hate on Apple for that. It would be such a terrible look. And obviously, they could choose to not support it in their home app. That'd be fine. They could obviously do that, as long as they support it in the apps that are on the phone. That would be okay. There's really nothing stopping them from doing that. Because, I mean, that's not really any different than what Google does with the Nest experience, or did with the Nest experience. Now that they moved it all into home, it's a little different. But, yeah, you meant on the home app Siri OS level. Yeah, and they could do that. And there's really nothing strictly preventing them. But I think they also just recognize that they're not going to make enough money on it. Like I said, and this goes right back to the airport networking stuff. Those were good products. They just weren't going to make enough money for Apple because they didn't have enough people buying them. People were happy to go buy Asus routers or Netgear, Linksys, whatever else. People are happy to go buy the stuff that ranged anywhere from junk up to professional level stuff. And while Apples were kind of nice to use, I have some. I don't use them really anymore, but One of them is functioning as basically a network switch because I didn't want to go buy an actual switch. But aside from that, like, the simple truth of it is people just don't want any of this stuff. Or there wouldn't be enough people buying this stuff. That's the problem. Okay, so heading back up to earlier comments. Let's see. Hoopy, because Apple fans have convinced themselves Google is evil and doesn't respect your privacy, so they buy Amazon. Yeah. And yeah, you and I are on the same page there. I know I said something to that effect earlier. Okay, there was the HomeKit thing, where I was trying to look for how to get it working. Or not how to get it working, but trying to find the Matter logo or some reference to it. You checked on your iPad and also no sign of it. They decided to bail on everything but computers, phones when the iPhone line was still going up. Yeah. And now they're flailing with subscription fitness plans and middle tier video streaming apps. Oof. Yeah, the fitness plans, I truly want to know how much money they're making on that. Not to pigeonhole, but I do wonder how much of like the like suburbanite stay at home, like mimosa afternoon, like the stereotype family with the stay-at-home mom who like has nothing to do during the day, so she just sits there and works out or does whatever. Obviously I'm totally just making fun of a stereotype here, not trying to take shots at anybody, but I wonder how many people they have paying for those overpriced fitness plans who are like, because like that crowd exists. We know that crowd does exist. I wonder how many people they actually have paying for those plans. Or are we going to hear in like another year or two some of the companies that offer those plans being like, oh yeah, no, we made like, we were only making like $200 a week off of subscribers. We just made no money, so it wasn't worth it to us. Or are they going to turn around and say, well, we were already doing this stuff, so it didn't cost us anymore to offer the same for those fitness plans, but at the same time they were a joke, so we didn't care about them either. Like, I just wonder, are we going to hear about this someday, that those were a bomb? Or is there some, or there are like fitness tutors out there in studios and whatever else that like, have they reached the point where they're saying, oh, you know what, we just don't even bother having real people come in anymore, all we do is teach through Apple? Like, which of these is going to be true? I'm very curious. Let's see. Hoopy, Apple users would refuse to buy any camera or lock that wasn't Apple, even if they cost $1,000. I know what the context of saying that was, but in kind of that alternate reality, I could see that being the case, but I think that's also going to be a smaller number of people. I think a dozen $60 smart lights could have made sense in the same world as a $100 HomePod Mini, but see my above statement about line going up and flailing. So very notably, I do want to say $60 smart lights were normal for a while. Go back and look at Philips Hue. Every Philips Hue bulb used to be, I think it was 50 or 55 bucks. And that was after they came down. I think they started at like 75 or something. Yeah, I mean, that used to be normal, and people absolutely did deck out their whole house every fixture with Philips Hue bulbs. Plus, they obviously had to buy their really crappy hubs, which were basically just tiny little garbage repeaters. So, you know, there was a time that was perfectly normal. And very notably, Apple also used to sell the Philips Hue bulbs through their store. But, you know, at a certain point, I think it became obvious. Like, Philips Hue kept selling stuff at high prices, and they still do. But a whole lot of other companies came along and were like, you know what, we can do the same thing for $20, or, you know, 20 to 35. And customers were like, oh, really? So instead of it costing $800 to deck out my kitchen, it's only going to cost me, you know, $500. Worth it. And so, yeah, you know, people don't want to spend super high numbers in order to do this stuff. Let's see. Okay. Since these two comments go together, repeating the one you said, you're suggesting Apple literally not support third-party smart home devices, which, yeah, I saw where you were going with that. Then you said, aside from places that they really don't want to be in, like robot vacuums. Frankly, I think Apple would love to be in robot vacuums if it wasn't already a heavily saturated market. That, again, the same thing I just said about all the companies that offer like security cameras to review. Same thing. Robot vacuums, we get offers for those all the time. My email gets them frequently. And it's from companies I've never heard of. I don't know who they are. Like, they could be sending an explosive as easily as they could be sending a robot vacuum, but and technically they might be doing both unknowingly. But yeah, it's just such a saturated thing because a robot vacuum is so easy to make now. There's not a lot of genius going into building a robot vacuum. So yeah, Apple, I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure they would probably have loved to be in that market, because who doesn't need a vacuum? And who wouldn't like it to be a smart robot that does things? The problem was that by the time Apple could have gotten into that market, it was already saturated. And Apple, from what again, you know, I don't think Apple likes getting into saturated markets. It costs too much to compete. Anyway, so skipping down, Koopy, I really think if Apple weren't wise enough to see that their current smart home interested users are all ready to invest in Hue and such, they'd be trying their hand there and not just being Peloton 2. I mean, being Peloton 2, I know you're saying that flippantly, but you know, it is funny. The thing is, though, the difference, at least with Peloton, is Peloton had to invest in all their own stuff. Apple is just, they're hype beasting for their fitness subscriptions, but it's costing them nothing to do it. Like, all they have to do is talk about it in a couple of keynotes, keep the advertisements going anytime somebody opens the Apple Health app, or whatever it's called. And yeah, it's an easy thing to keep pitching. And it's a subscription service that, again, Apple's just skimming off the top of other people doing the work. So it's great for them. Let's see. I've seen that Apple retail employees have had, quote, talked about Ted Lasso frequently added to their performance reviews, so Apple's real desperate to find new ways to add revenue. Hue still costs that much. My point was that it wasn't enough profit for Apple, and now we're in the era of please God make TV Plus and Fitness Plus and AR be a thing. So I do think I don't know this for sure, but I think Apple TV Plus is successful, or at least I think it's doing okay. Do we know? How profitable is Apple TV Plus? Okay, let's transition that view. According to the Hollywood Reporter, you know, the highly respectable Hollywood Reporter, I have no idea if they're good or bad. Quote, both income and revenue came in below the year earlier totals of $2.10 and $123.9 billion. Okay. I guess that's 2.1 billion, whatever. I don't know. Still, Apple services, which encompasses Apple TV Plus, Apple Music, Apple Arcade, and more, came in at $20.8 billion for the 3 months ending December 31st, setting a new revenue record up from $19.5 billion a year earlier. So they made a little over $1 billion increased revenue. That's not bad. It's honestly, I bet they're losing money though. Probably just anything that they gain, they're probably spending in making more stuff. Why did the screen just suddenly jump? Huh. I just got a warning that my bit rate was lower than oh, crap. Did it? Really quick, I'm just going to wave my hands to see if the stream is actually still live. Double checking this because anyone who was watching the Discord earlier, you may have noticed, looks fine? Okay. I'm literally getting warnings that there's no data and that the bitrate is too low. That's not a promising sign. Anyway, the reason, okay, really quick, we're also gonna bump that up so that might fix that. So the reason I'm a little bit worried too is if you were watching Discord, you probably saw I said something about my internet speeds are supposed to be increasing. That was supposed to be activated yesterday. It's still not active today. Last I checked, and that was just, I don't know, like an hour and a half or so before I started streaming. So yeah, the ISP, I could go into a long explanation about what happened, but short version, they're giving a 1-year offer to increase speeds for the same price as the lower speed. I took them up on it. Apparently, a lot of people are taking them up on this offer all at once, so they're getting inundated with people upgrading. And as a result, supposedly they are, quote, a bit behind. I have no idea how good or bad they actually are, but I'm kind of half expecting that they're probably just going to suddenly cut my connection before doing the upgrade. I don't know. But yeah, I'm half expecting that. If it happens, it happens. Hopefully not though. Anyway, so not important, but it just me being somewhat concerned that all of a sudden I might fall off the air. I should have thought to put a note up or mention it earlier. Anyway, but yeah, so presumably this is them saying that they're making money, I think. Or at least probably not really losing substantially. And it is still newish. So they're spending money on building a back catalog. I think that's going to matter a lot. Let's see. Okay, you did say we don't know They still report just a generic services and or accessories at earnings call, you'd think. Judging from this quote, I guess it's a little bit more specific now. It seems like it's, quote, Apple services. But, I mean, it's TV, music, arcade, and more. I don't know what more necessarily includes, but if it includes like iCloud storage or something, all of a sudden this starts looking like a pretty bad number. Let's see. Then you said, I'm sure TV Plus is a success. It's just in this theme of Apple forsook a bunch of potential product lines because it wouldn't be enough profit, and now they're desperate to expand to even small things. I don't know that I would go that far. I mean, I think that, yes, they probably look at a lot of things and say, yeah, that's not enough profit for us. Again, light bulbs, cameras, security cameras, not like, believe me, I don't think that they would be profitable if they did this, but there is still a part of me that's like, yo, can we get a big ass beefy DSLR style camera out of them with a lens that you could like break someone's skull with? I want this. I don't care if it's Google or Apple that gives it to me, but someone make it. Anyway, honestly, they wouldn't make a huge money off of that, but they'd make some money. That is a high margin market when you sell enough of them. And let's be honest, if Apple sold a big ass camera, think of all these self-professed like influencer photographer types who would buy it so fast. I mean, so fast. They would throw away that like a couple months rent in a heartbeat to get that thing. It doesn't matter what it costs. They would be all over it because it would be the new signal to people that you've made it. Which, by the way, I have comments about that in a second, or in minutes or hours. Who knows how long this will go. Yeah, the thing is, I think they're looking at things like light bulbs and security cameras and saying, we could try to do this. It's going to cost X amount of dollars to get into it. How much are we going to really make back? And I'm sure they could make products that would be quote unquote profitable, but by the time you've done the R&D on them, developed it, marketed them, find a way to make space for them in an Apple store, and the list goes on. Like, by the time you've done all of this, are they really going to make as much as just dedicating more space in the Apple store to more iPhones and iPads? Are they going to make as much as picking, I don't know, Apple TV and trying to invest more into that? Are they going to, like, which things are they going to make a sacrifice on in order to do stuff like a light bulb? Counterpoint Beats. Okay, I think Beats was a strategic attempt that, by all accounts, I don't think worked out. Specifically post AirPods. Now, if we're talking post AirPods, it definitely didn't work out. I as far as I'm aware, Beats is just a loss leader if there ever was one. Maybe I'm wrong. Someone's welcome to correct me, but I got the impression Beats is just not like, that's a brand. It makes money, but it's not doing anything. There's still a dedicated Beats wall at every Apple store. Yeah. So, honestly, I don't see any Beats hype anymore. Admittedly, I don't follow, you know what? I don't follow a lot of DJs. I used to. A lot. I used to really enjoy, like, when I was working, I would put on like I put on sets from like Miami Ultra or Tomorrowland, any of the big like EDM stuff. because it was just a good continuous set of music. But let's see. Just for giggles. Obviously, I'm not going to show this for reasons that I think are fairly obvious. I don't want to get any copyright strikes out of this, but I'm just going to skip around and see what are the DJs wearing. Okay, come on, let's... What? Martin Garrix, what do you have on your head? Yeah, we got to get a closer view of you than that. Did he suddenly decide he wasn't going to use headphones very much during his sets? Jesus. Like, he pops them on for a couple seconds. I'm assuming just he had sync, and then he's got them right back off. I don't think those are Beats. That does not look like a Beats logo. See, and the reason I'm looking at this is because it used to be, if you looked at any of these, if you popped open any DJ set, you were going to see Beats headphones. Like, that was the thing every single DJ was wearing. In part because I think they were all being given free Beats headphones. Some of them were also paid sponsors, or paid shills, basically, like paid to wear. Wow, really? He does not have his headphones on much. That is different. He also put on some weight. Like, not judging, just Martin Garrix got bigger. Oh, wait, is that a good? Yeah, those are not Beats headphones, guaranteed. Let's see. Looking back over comments, if Beats is still worth the effect, I think smart lights and cameras could be worth at least as much effort. So here's the thing with Beats. I think the reason that they bought Beats was not so that they could sell headphones. I think that they kept selling headphones because, and I'm just guessing here, but I think they wanted to do it because, for one, I think there were contracts that basically had to do with the brand, and who was it? Damn it, who was it Dre? No. Was it Dre? Whoever it was that they acquired who became a like a quote unquote executive. I know Dre was involved in Beats, but I don't remember. Was he the one that became a official Apple executive, like air quote Apple executive, when the acquisition happened? If it was Dre, then, well, it doesn't matter who, but I think he still retains some of the like contract or naming or something like that. They might be keeping Beats around to keep that contract from like it going south. There's a lot of possibilities there. I can't tell what brand it is, but Armin van Buuren definitely not wearing Beats either. Let's see, do we have Dimitri Vegas and Like Mike? What do we have on these guys? I know nobody cares about this. I'm looking far too hard for something that absolutely should not matter. But I still think that this is pretty indicative of how the market is going and how important this brand is or rather isn't anymore, because their whole thing was selling to, like, Beats was a thing that basically sold to two groups. It sold to the EDM guys, and it's sold to basically, well, like rap fans, rap hip hop as a general larger group. And from what I can tell, it's not as popular with either of them. And if it dropped out with the EDM crowd, that's pretty much like a kiss of death for a lot of the money that was coming in, because that crowd likes to spend. The camera is really not showing me. Oh, no. Okay, those aren't Beats either. That is, I don't know what the hell any of these are, but these are definitely different. These are like on-ear headphones. Why the hell is he using those? That is weird. Yeah, exactly. Beats was the thing when you were in high school, and it was huge. Now, it's just it's a brand that people know still exists, but I don't get the impression anyone cares about it anymore. Not like they used to, for sure. Let's see. And they basically continued to be up until AirPods were released, and they basically decimated that market share overnight. Yeah. That I would completely agree with that. I think Apple basically, and part of it is, I think Apple also bought bought Beats, possibly to get at contracts Beats had, or deals, agreements, arrangements, whatever, because I think they wanted to get AirPods into the same distribution channels. I think they were trying to maybe get AirPods into the same people who were already sponsored by Beats. I think they were trying to put AirPods into that stratosphere, which, you know, buying Beats makes a weird kind of sense. It's more about making sure it was more about making sure the AirPods could succeed, and less about trying to acquire the profit of Beats. And I would say it did work for them if that's what they were trying to do. Oh, you think they also wanted Beats music? I don't think that one. I don't buy. I mean, the rest of it I'll agree. I don't think they wanted Beats music at all. Maybe there were some contracts that they were shooting for or something, but I just cannot see it. I think Beats music was kind of doomed from the start. Yes, I know Apple Music is technically a rebrand of Beats Music, but they already had iTunes, and really it was just they could have already just transitioned iTunes into being Apple Music. And I mean the iTunes store, not iTunes the software. You think they would have gotten a worse deal? They probably would have. But it's also Apple. They could have. And if they did well enough, they would have renegotiated. Like, the worst thing that would have happened is they would have paid a little bit more in streaming music, but they would have saved that by not buying Beats. They overpaid for Beats by pretty much every objective measure. Maybe they got some better contracts out of acquiring Beats, but I don't think that they made back their money doing that. Nor do I think they made back their money with selling Beats. But I think the strategic value of what Beats had in terms of being able, like, having connections with so many people to send AirPods to and turn into sponsors, or like sponsored visibility, I think that's where the AirPods benefited, and that's where I think Apple got their money's worth. I don't think they got their money's worth out of Beats Music. I don't think they got it out of selling Beats. The two together, I don't think they got their money, but maybe got closer. But I do think they made it out of having all three combined, and that visibility just starts to matter. Let's see. Do we not? Does Afrojack not do this anymore? Anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh, there was something I alluded to, and I said I was gonna mention it, but now I'm blanking on it. Oh, that's gonna bug me. I really should have written it down or opened a page to point to it or something like that. Anyway, regardless, going back to the broader subject of accessories, I just think that the strategy cost involved with getting involved in most types of accessories is higher than the value that they would get. Or rather, if you're going to pick, like, we want to start a new product line this year, you have the choice of, I don't know, 15 things. Do you do light bulbs and smart plugs, or do you take a risk and go with a VR headset? Like, the VR headset may cost a lot more, it may not succeed, but your chances of it exploding and being a massive profit center in the future are way higher, no matter what. Some light bulbs and smart plugs, they'll turn you a profit, but you'll just be the old company that's selling smart plugs and light bulbs, and no one's gonna care. Even if you make a huge amount of money off of selling those over time, it's still not gonna dwarf what you make out of selling iPhones, and it's gonna take, again, more store space, and it's gonna make you look like every other company. And I think Apple's so concerned about its image and impression that they'd rather just go with the AR headsets and things like that. So yeah, I think that's the reason that we're not seeing them doing smart home stuff. The problem is, it means that they also don't have a smart home ecosystem to sell with this, and that's killing them. Or hurting them at least a little bit. Let's see. Anyway, man, I did not see... no joke, I came into tonight with 2 topics prepared. Well, sorry, 3. Microsoft AI stuff, the Mark Gurman iOS 17 smart home landscape thing with iPhones, and this the Sony Q handheld thing. That's it. 3 freaking topics. Show's been going 3 hours 20 minutes, which, well, okay, minus 10 for the intro card. So this is why it's called the RambleCast, folks. Welcome to the show. Anyway, let's see. Fortunately, I don't have any other topics prepared, but really quick, to go back and read, Hoopy, you did have another short thing to say about the Q handheld device from Sony. So you've got another conspiracy theory to support the $300 Q hypothesis. Nowhere seems to stock shelves with the PS5 digital anymore. Yeah, that's, I think, true. Though, I have my own theory on that, just to immediately think about it, but I'll come back to that momentarily. So you think they're going to discontinue the digital edition and then brag that this is $200 cheaper than the PS5 and $50 cheaper than the Switch OLED. Okay, I don't feel like that really sells the $300 hypothesis, because you're picking those numbers kind of out of nowhere, because they could, bear with me, they could literally say, or they could literally make it $250 and say it's half the price of the PS5. Like, you don't even put a number value on it. If the PS5 is $250 and they charge, or sorry, $500, and they charge $250 for this, it's literally half the price. Like, that feels like a stronger way to sell it. And then, yeah, if they're comparing against the Switch OLED, they can say it's $100 cheaper. I mean, just, again, that was a joke theory. Okay. Let's see. There was, I had some other vague thought kicking. Oh, I do have a bit of a, just now that you're mentioning it with the digital thing, I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm taking your word for it. I think stores don't want to stock the digital version anyway. The PS5 digital doesn't take discs, and a lot of stores carry games in disc form. They can't sell those games in their stores, so I think they also don't want to sell the digital version, especially to like parents who are going in to buy like parents go in, they buy a game console for their kid, and like I'm sure they want to buy a game or two, and the store has to be like, oh, we're sorry, you have to plug this thing in and go buy the games from their store. Yeah, so yeah, we don't sell anything for you here after that. I think they don't want to do that sort of a dance, so they'd rather just sell the more expensive model. Again, assuming that that's actually the thing. I don't know. Again, I have no idea. I have only ever looked in a local Walmart to see that there was a PlayStation 5. I didn't look at which one it was. As a bit of a side note, I'm actually gonna, I took this picture, I don't know why, but I had to. When I was in a Walmart a few weeks back, I guess it was, yeah, it was a few weeks back. I was a little stunned at this. So I took a picture of it. This, as I was walking out of the electronics aisle, I saw this. These are, okay, I guess I can't do that. But these are records, vinyl. When did Walmart become the music store that is selling vinyl? And as you can, if you look close, you can even see the vinyl music like hanging sign isn't even above the aisle that I'm taking a picture of. There's more on the other side. There are actually fewer CDs. All the big retailers sell vinyl now, old man. It's hip now. See, yeah, I know this has come back in, and it's so stupid. I'm sorry. I know people love vinyl. Poor framing 16 or 610. Or sorry, poor framing 6 out of 10. I get it. Yeah. Hey, this is how the phone took the picture. And I didn't care about getting it in landscape because in this instance I just didn't care. But honestly, like, I looked at this and could not shake the what the hell's happened to this world that we're suddenly back to pitching vinyl records as the thing. It always irritates me because I hear people talk about how vinyl sounds better. No, it doesn't. It's literally scientifically proven it does. Well, sorry. It does not have as high of audio quality. Scientifically proven. Fact. It is beyond dispute at this point. The only thing it has is the scratching sound of the imperfections in the vinyl. And Austin sharing Billboard, I already know what this is going to lead to. I don't even have to read. I don't need to look. I could close my eyes, open this. What it's going to do is say that vinyl is outselling CDs now. I already know. This is the big thing. Everyone's been talking about it for about a couple of years, I think. Vinyl has been outselling CDs. US vinyl album sales rise for 17th straight year, but growth is slowing. Okay. 43% of all albums sold in the US in 2022 were vinyl LPs, led by Taylor Swift's Midnights, but the format's growth curve is starting to level out. Wait, really? I heard that they were blowing away CD sales in 2022 for the second year in a row, and only the second year since Luminate began tracking music sales in 1991. Vinyl albums outsold CD albums in the US. Okay, so for the last 2 years. Wait, this was posted... Okay, this was posted this year. In January. So, yeah. Vinyl sales are the leading physical format for album purchases. I'm inserting the word physical. Not counting cassettes, I know. Okay, so here's the catch. No one buys CDs anymore. Why would anyone buy CDs? It's stupid. Nobody wants to own CDs either. That's the catch. Physical sales are not like super high selling anymore. It's so much more in streaming than it was physical. And I'm sure there's still people buying MP3s off of Amazon and a few other services, but it's streaming now. Like, to me, making a big deal about vinyl outselling CDs is sort of like making a big deal about, I'm trying to think of something equally dumb. What would be a thing? Oh wow, I really cannot think of something that is good and comparable. I guess it would be sort of like, oh, I know. It would be sort of like talking about how tape backup drives are outselling 3.5-inch floppy disks. Well, sure. Yeah, okay, fine. They're outselling them now. Because, granted, I don't think anyone sells either of those anymore. But who cares? Like, I'm sure these numbers are not huge anymore. I guess I should look. Okay. So their music report. Do we have a... No, I guess I'd have to sign up and give them a bunch of my personal information in order to look at their stats. I'm not doing that. Do we have an actual amount? 17 years of vinyl growth. So they say 43.5 million vinyl albums were sold in 2022 to the same person? By the way, I want to specifically call that out because that is a thing in case anyone doesn't know. A lot of musical acts will put their stuff in stores and then promptly buy it, or even buy it before it goes into a store, just so they can get themselves a higher they can get something like a gold or platinum album. So they just buy their own thing. It costs an amount. There's the same tactic is used for New York Times bestsellers. In order to get onto the New York Times bestseller list, can I look this up? I don't know. There was some number a few years ago. How much does it cost to get on the New York Times bestseller list? Um, okay. Yeah. So, I don't know how accurate this is, but it makes the point. Uh, Regardless of which list you want to make, to land on any bestseller list, generally you must sell at least 5,000 books in 1 week. This is the minimum sales goal. You may need to sell 10,000 copies in 1 week. Depending on the list, the different requirements can get tricky. So in other words, if you're willing to buy, say, 10,000 copies of your own book, or, you know, somehow fund this, and bear in mind, it doesn't have to be through the same retailer. If you've got a retailer that you can get a steep discount on because of who you are, or how you get there, or whatever, you can buy your way to the top of any list for a shockingly low amount of money. Let's see. Okay, Hoopy, I like that. Misleading stat: 43.4 of the 43.46 million records were bought by one pervert with a hyper-specific kink in Florida. So, which I'm going to very specifically choose to reinterpret as Flo Rida. Somebody is really, really deeply into some Flo Rida. Anyway, Hoopy, you hear tape backup is still pretty big for enterprise. I'm sure it is. Let's see. Also, because I unintentionally skipped over this, but I want to go back. You said also seriously about the digital PS5. I'll bet the physical one also just had higher margins, and so better to share with retailers than the digital only. Yeah, that's very likely true too. But okay, anyway. Yeah, as far as records go, or vinyl, I know that there is a thing for this. There is a weird interest in vinyl. It just irritates me every time I hear somebody talk about it sounding better. I've mentioned this before because I love to mention this. There was a study, or well, like a double-blind test done with a bunch of people quite a few years back, where what they did was they tested a bunch of people listening to basically an MP3, a high quality MP3, or off of DVD or sorry, CD, whichever, and people listening to the same track on a record. And a whole bunch of people picked the record time and time again because they thought it just sounded better. And then what they then proceeded to do was take a blank record, play it, and record the scratching sound that it still produced. Then they overlaid that sound onto the digital copies that were being played from a DVD or an MP3, and no one could tell the difference. And most people ended up picking the digital versions because they still sounded better, but they really wanted to think that they were hearing a record. I'm sorry, but people are listening for the fake people are listening for that scratchy sound because they want to feel like it's unique or special. It's BS. Yeah, you have some gold-plated HDMI cables to sell these people. Exactly. That is exactly what this is. And look, you know, sure, vinyl's got kind of a cool feeling to it to some extent. There's a ritual to swapping records onto a player. I won't dispute that there's some ritual to it, and people enjoy that. And cool. Great. I have nothing against people who want to enjoy the ritual of it, but stop pretending it sounds better. It doesn't. It's just sorry. But yeah, so out of curiosity, has anyone heard about this New York Times bestseller list trick before? Which the same thing obviously exists for album sales. Like, it costs a lot more money than you should want to spend on something like this. But if you're willing to just buy a crap load of your stuff, that's how you can do it. Which, by the way, it's very notable that a lot of politicians and various other people who are trying to sell their image, this is how a lot of them end up on the bestseller list. And this is also why you will see them doing a lot of book tours, signings, things like that. They're not just trying to pitch, and other events where they typically have a bunch of books to either sell directly or give away. The thing is, a lot of times they pre-bought all the books that they needed in order to get onto the bestseller list, and then they're going around either giving them away or trying to sell them at a discount or whatever, to make back their money. But yeah, this is actually a really common tactic, which is why so many end up on the bestseller list. Austin, yeah, you had a professor that did that with one of his books, and then stores them in his garage and slowly resold them to his classes over the years. Yeah, I've heard of this, though I think it's less common with professors. But that is actually a pretty smart tactic given who they are and their options. But yeah, it's a hack. If you can invest the money in it, you can become a best-selling author without legitimately selling a single copy of your book. Which, shameless, sad, whatever, but it works. You can buy notoriety. And bear in mind, I also want to point this out. Next time you look at someone's Twitter profile or whatever social media profile, if they ever brag about being a best-selling author, just remember this. Ask yourself, were they really? Did they really sell that to a lot of people? Did somebody come along and say, ooh, I can't wait to learn more about Karl Rove from his point of view. I can't wait to learn more about Hillary Clinton's run for president from her point of view. I don't know. Actually, there might be people who are into that one. I don't know. Think of all the politicians who have supposedly been bestsellers and ask yourself, did anyone care? I think most people didn't. So yeah, this remains one of the things that I always laugh about every time I think about it. And I know it happens in music. I don't know how much it happens in music. I have heard of at least a few artists in the past where I know they got close enough. Whatever threshold they were going for, whether it was a gold or a platinum album, double platinum, whatever. Like, they got close enough and were like, you know what? Let's just spend the money to push ourselves over that line. So some of them will do that. I know that happens. Because maybe they're trying to hit the best-selling list, or they might be trying to score this as a new album comes out or something like that to kind of raise their profile. I know things like that'll happen, but you got to figure if someone has enough money that they can just straight up pay for an album, or pay to make their album immediately go to platinum or something. If someone's willing to do it, they'll do it. It doesn't matter. And it makes for good press, even if it's totally bogus. Anyway, so I think I am pretty much out of things to say and talk about. Let's see. So what else? So far, this streaming setup seems to be working pretty well. As far as I can tell, I don't think my temperatures went over about maybe 70 degrees centigrade on the computer, which is fine. I'm not going to complain with that. And that's without even having a fan pointed at it. For anyone that doesn't know, with my old MacBook, I would always... I know it wasn't technically necessary, but I kind of figured it was probably saving a little bit of lifespan on the processor. I would always point a desk fan right across the top of it to blow hot air, or to blow away some of the hot air and give it a little bit better thermal control, kind of. This seems to be running pretty smoothly as it is, so I'm happy with that. Also, this is doing H.265 hardware encoding before sending it to YouTube, so I think the quality should presumably be pretty good. I technically lowered the bitrate, but I lowered it to the more recommended levels, and being that it's encoded so much better, it actually should just look better, I think. I didn't do anything to audio in terms of quality. I just got the audio function set up so that I can control which streams are doing what. As I said before, and I don't know how much anyone will care about this, but I think what I'm going to try to do is start recording my audio tracks, running them through some automated processes to cut out blanks and stuff like that, and repost those as a podcast later. So possibly the next day or something like that. Oddly, YouTube on mobile is only giving you 144p. What? Please tell me that's a joke. At least from my dashboard, I see it giving up to 1080, which is what it should be doing. Though for some reason, it is saying 1080p 60? What? Why? This shouldn't be doing 60 frames a second output. That can't be right. Can it? This should just only be 30. Oh no. What? This is this is streaming at 60 frames a second. Why? I copied over the profile settings. It should not be 60 frames a second. Okay, that's something that needs to be fixed. Is this right? If I open up okay, so good. That's muted. If I... Oh my god, it's 60 frames a second. Whoops. Okay, well, that's something I need to fix. Because there's no reason for this to be in 60. There's absolutely no reason for this to be at 60. That's so dumb. Okay, well, good thing I noticed it. At least I didn't do 2 years of streaming this without even realizing. Because, yeah, it may as well just be 30. Let's see. So, what else? Yeah. Anyway, I want to do a clean audio version that I can output as a podcast if anyone wants to listen to those. And what I'm going to try to do is find some sort of a way to basically get to cut out a lot of the empty spaces, and hopefully do that well. So, it would just speed up the listening experience and cut out those blank gaps that would occasionally occur. Not to say that I don't typically talk pretty streamlined. I kind of learned it from, well, I learned it from doing the Android Police podcast before. It's the classic rule. You never want to have dead air. Even for, if you have dead air for more than, what is it, 3/4 of a second or something, people kind of want to tune out. I kind of learned from that rule that you just generally want to always be talking, even if you don't necessarily have anything to say, which is not necessarily the best way to frame it. But anyway, yeah, so I'd still like to try to cut out some of the blank spots. See if I can't clear that up. Why am I getting multiple notifications for the same person following me on Mastodon? Anyway, let's see. But yeah, I need to work out how exactly I can do that without it taking tons and tons of time. But I'm also going to be super busy for the next several days. I'm finishing up stuff for 2 reviews. I have another thing I have to get done for personal matters, and then also movie post. So yeah, I'm not going to mess around with any podcast stuff until then, or until after that's done. And I might have a couple of other quick side projects to look into before even that. But yeah, we'll see. I also obviously would like to do a little bit with cleaning up channel graphics and things like that. You know, all stuff that I've wanted to do forever and just never get around to. Part of what will make that a little bit easier is having it all on the same computer, because then I can just design something, load it up, test it right on the computer without having to swap to the computer that I don't use for anything other than streaming. But yeah, that's all stuff I will get to. And who knows, maybe having a faster connection will help with some of that, or not. Anyway, as for this weekend, I think I will be playing some Fall Guys. I hope, I expect, I think. Besides that, I'm hoping this weekend will be mostly me just writing code. I hope, I think, I want. And yeah, I think that'll be about it. So with that, thanks everyone for coming by. Of course, if you would like to support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. If you are already helping out, of course, massive thanks to you. You're awesome human beings. And if you haven't been and would like to be, check out one of those links. Click around. Pick something that works for you. It certainly helps me. It helps keep the channel going. And, you know, all that good stuff. But with that, I hope you all... And, you know what? Okay, before I go, I gotta point this out. This is the dumbest thing. I can't believe this. Look what's working. The chat box. It's working again. No idea why. That is some bonkers stuff right there. I don't know. I do not get what's going on here. Anyway, so stupid Streamlabs. Maybe I'll go looking for a replacement for Streamlabs. That would actually really be nice. Anyway, with that, thank you all for coming by, hanging out, being part of the conversation, chatting with me, keeping me chatting, and arguing with me where appropriate. That's always awesome. I love it. So with that, I hope you all an excellent rest of the week. Good night, everybody.